3 months ago, Lily Whitmore made a tiny mistake. She got into the wrong car. Wrong car for most people? Embarrassing 2 minutes. Lily's wrong car belonged to Nico Santoro, the head of the Santoro family, one of the most feared men in New York, the kind of man who makes other dangerous men nervous. And here's the thing. Nico was in the middle of being shot at by the Valenti family when this big-eyed girl threw herself into his back seat, rambling about Brooklyn and dead phones. Did he have time to drop her off? No. Did he take her home to Christmas dinner with his family instead? Yes. Lily was absolutely certain she'd been kidnapped. She tried to escape, twice. She pulled a knife on Enzo. She climbed a wall and sprained her ankle. What she didn't know, that crazy mansion with Rosa's aggressive pastor, Enzo's terrible jokes, and one ice-cold mafia boss who couldn't stop staring at her, was about to become her home. 3 months later, one engagement ring, a baby on the way, and a wedding to plan. But today she meets Nonna Caterina, the oldest and most terrifying Santoro of them all. And trust me, things are about to get complicated. Lily Whitmore was running out of time, and more importantly, running out of ways to outsmart her own fiancé. She burst through the salon's back door onto a Manhattan side street, phone already in hand. A quick scan of the area. No black suits by the parking meters, no earpieces glinting in the winter sun, no Marco materializing from shadows like a very Italian, very armed ghost. She allowed herself a small victory smile. 3 months of being followed everywhere, grocery stores, coffee shops, once even into a fitting room where she'd screamed loud enough to crack mirrors, had taught her one valuable skill. How to disappear. Well, disappear was generous. More like temporarily misplace herself. Nico was going to be furious. But that was future Lily's problem. Present Lily had bigger concerns, like surviving a wedding dress fitting with Nonna Caterina, Nico's grandmother, a woman who apparently made grown men cry. The black SUV rolled up to the curb, sleek and silent. Lily yanked open the back door and threw herself inside. "Thank you so much. I'm in a huge rush. The address is already in the app. If you could maybe just—" Then she heard it. That voice, low, smooth, dripping with satisfaction. Maybe what? Lily's stomach dropped. Oh no. Her eyes lifted to the rearview mirror. Ice-blue eyes stared back, crinkling slightly at the corners. That jaw, those shoulders, that infuriating almost smile he got when he was enjoying himself far too much. Nico Santoro, her fiancé, in the driver's seat, again. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." Lily threw her hands up. "Every time, every single time I call an Uber, you're behind the wheel. Do you have some kind of radar? A Lily detector implanted in my phone?" Nico turned in his seat, resting one arm on the headrest. He looked like a cat who'd caught a particularly entertaining mouse. "I told you not to ditch the security detail." The words landed like stones. Lily's spine stiffened against the seat. "I'm tracking the Uber app on your phone." He turned back to the windshield, casual, unbothered. "Every ride request sends me a notification." Lily's jaw dropped. "You're tracking my location. That's not security, Nico. That's an invasion of privacy. That's basically stalking." Movement on the dashboard screen cut her off. 4 men in expensive suits stared out from a video conference, their faces frozen in various stages of discomfort. She hadn't even noticed they were there. One of them cleared his throat. "Mr. Santoro, perhaps we should continue this at a more convenient time." "Yes." Nico's eyes flicked to the screen, then found Lily's in the mirror. Something glinted there. Amusement, maybe, or warning. "Let's cut this short. I have a more pressing matter. Security-related." Heat crawled up Lily's neck. His gaze lingered on her for a moment longer than necessary, before returning to the screen. "Proceed as I instructed." His voice dropped into that low register that made her stomach flip. "Eliminate them." Lily's hand flew to her mouth. The screen went dark. "Nico." The word came out strangled. "What are you— Eliminate? Are you having people killed right now, while I'm sitting in the car?" He watched her through the mirror, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make her squirm. Then his lips twitched. "You watch too much Netflix, Lily." "That's not an answer." Her voice pitched higher. In my business, eliminate means cut ties. Erase them from our world. He tilted his head slightly. The other kind requires different vocabulary. The pressure in Lily's chest loosened. Oh, she exhaled. Okay, that's actually fine. She paused. Wait, what is the vocabulary for the other kind? Actually, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know. 3 months as a mafia boss's fiancée, and she still couldn't tell when he was discussing murder or mergers. Nico pulled the SUV into traffic, smooth and controlled. His eyes found hers in the mirror again, and something in them shifted, warmer now, softer at the edges. Your hair. His voice softened. Lily touched it self-consciously, fingers brushing the fresh curls. What about it? His eyes held hers in the mirror. It suits you, Bambi. That stupid nickname. The one she'd hated from the moment he first said it, back when she was terrified and trapped and certain he was going to kill her. Now it made warmth pool in her chest like honey, spreading through her veins until her cheeks burned. She was not going to blush. She blushed anyway. The car lurched forward. Lily's head cracked against the headrest, her body slamming into the seat as the SUV rocketed down the street. Nico! She grabbed the door handle, knuckles white. Is someone following us? Are they shooting? No. He didn't even glance back. Then why are we driving like we're in a car chase? Clear stretch of road. He said it like that explained everything, like physics and common sense simply didn't apply to him. In New York, when you see open asphalt, you take it. That's not speeding. That's respecting the road. Lily stared at the back of his head, heart slamming against her ribs. You're calling this safe driving? His eyes met hers in the mirror, that ghost of a smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. Nobody's shooting. So yes. She slumped against the seat, one hand pressed to her racing heart. The adrenaline was fading now, leaving her jittery and raw. But the real danger wasn't behind them. It was waiting at a bridal boutique across town. I'm already a wreck, you know. The words came out thin, tired. Today, Rosa and I are going wedding dress shopping with your grandmother. Nonna Caterina. Something shifted in Nico's expression. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Lily frowned. What? What's that face? Nothing. But his eyes had gone darker, distant. Just thinking about the wedding. What about it? She watched him carefully. The garter. His voice dropped, slow and deliberate. Lily blinked. The what now? I'll be buying your garter myself. His eyes found hers in the mirror, and suddenly the air in the car felt 10 degrees warmer. You know the tradition. At the reception, in front of everyone, I remove it with my teeth. A pause. Slowly. I'm very much looking forward to that moment. Heat flooded her entire body, her face, her neck, places she refused to think about in the back seat of a car. She was not going to think about his teeth on her thigh. She was not. Is that all you think about when someone mentions wedding dresses? Her voice came out strangled. Nico held her gaze in the mirror. Steady, scorching. I'm a Santoro man, Lily. When I look at you, it's the only thing I can think about. She was going to combust, right here. They'd find nothing but ashes and embarrassment. She needed to change the subject, before her body betrayed her completely. Tell me about your grandmother. She forced the words out, desperate for safer ground. Should I actually be scared? Nico's eyes narrowed. What did Enzo tell you? Lily frowned, trying to remember the exact words. Something about a volcano erupting into the ocean. The sound lava makes when it hits the water, that hissing, boiling, end-of-the-world kind of sound. She shook her head. I didn't totally understand the metaphor, but his face was serious. Enzo's face. Serious. Nico nodded slowly. That's Enzo. So he was exaggerating, right? Lily leaned forward. Being dramatic? No. His jaw tightened. He was softening it. Lily's stomach dropped. Softening it? How do you soften a volcano metaphor? My grandfather controlled half of New York's underground. Nico's eyes met hers in the mirror. Nonna controlled him. with a single look. He paused. She doesn't get angry, Lily. She gets quiet, and when Nonna gets quiet, even the walls hold their breath. Lily stared at him, at those ice-blue eyes, that carved stone jaw. "That," she said slowly, "sounds like someone I know." Nico's lips curved, just barely, just enough to make her heart skip. The SUV pulled through the mansion gates, tires crunching on gravel. Nico brought the car to a stop and turned to look at her properly for the first time since she'd gotten in. "Lily." His voice stopped her. She paused, hand on the door. "What?" "Stop ditching the security detail." The command was soft but absolute. "Or what?" She met his eyes in challenge. "Next time you request an Uber, I might be in the middle of a firefight." Those ice-blue eyes pinned her to the seat. "Bullets flying, blood on the street, and your little GPS dot starts moving across Manhattan while I can't get to you." The color drained from Lily's face. Her fingers froze on the handle. "Nico, that's not funny." Then she saw it, the tiny twitch at the corner of his mouth. "Relax, Bambi." His voice softened. "I was joking." His lips curved into something almost tender. "That panicked look, though, I do love it." Lily shoved the door open hard enough to rock the SUV and slammed it behind her. "Ugh, Santoro men!" She stormed toward the mansion, heels striking stone like gunshots, then stopped. Her hand pressed against her chest. "Oh no, I sound just like Rosa." The boutique occupied the entire top floor of a Fifth Avenue building, the kind of address that didn't bother listing prices. Rosa squeezed her arm as they stepped out of the elevator, tears already forming in her eyes. "Tesoro, this is it. The finest bridal atelier in New York." She gestured at the silk-draped walls, the crystal chandeliers, the champagne station manned by a woman in head-to-toe black. Santoro brides wear custom gowns, fitted to every single curve, not a millimeter loose. Adriano has dressed 3 generations of our family. Lily nodded, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of tradition pressing down on her shoulders. "The lace comes directly from Italy," Rosa continued, steering her toward the main showroom. "Milan, hand-stitched by nuns, some say. Very exclusive, very—" She stopped mid-sentence. A figure had emerged from between the gown displays. Tall, razor-thin, 80 years old, but carrying herself like a woman, half that age. Black hair, dyed, but flawlessly so, pulled into a severe chignon. Red lipstick perfectly applied, cheekbones that could cut glass, and eyes. Ice-blue eyes. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Nico's eyes. In an 80-year-old face. So, that's where he gets them. 3 bodyguards flanked the woman, young, handsome, clearly selected for aesthetics as much as protection. She'd arrived before them. Of course she had. She'd been examining the gowns, running her fingers along the fabric, assessing the merchandise before the main event. Rosa seemed to shrink beside Lily. White hair, soft curves, gentle face. Standing next to Caterina Santoro, she looked older, softer, less. 40 years of marriage to a Santoro, and she still wilts in this woman's shadow. Caterina's gaze swept over Rosa with the warmth of Greenland. "Yes, we Santoros take pride in our brides." Her voice carried across the boutique like a verdict being read. "Body-hugging lace is our family tradition. The fabric comes from Italy. Only Italy." Those frozen eyes settled on Rosa. "Though of course you never wore one, did you? Running off with my son. No blessing, no approval, no ceremony." Rosa's smile flickered but held. "No, but after Nico was born, Antonio gave me a proper wedding. I wore the traditional gown then." "Ah, yes." Caterina tilted her head, a cobra contemplating a mouse. "I remember that dress, the one you outgrew during the reception." A soft click of her tongue. "The seams couldn't hold. But then the fabric wasn't Italian, was it? I bought it myself, some discount shop in Brooklyn." The words landed like slaps across Rosa's face. Lily watched her mother-in-law-to-be absorb the blow, watched her shoulders curl inward, watched 40 years of accumulated wounds flicker across her features. Mother Caterina? Rosa's voice held steady, but only just. 40 years? 40 years you've been doing this? Her chin lifted slightly. Aren't you tired of hating me for loving your son? I gave you a beautiful grandson. He runs the entire family now. Caterina shrugged, one shoulder, dismissive, final. Yes, only one. The silence that followed could have frozen the champagne. Then Caterina turned, and those ice-blue eyes locked onto Lily like targeting lasers. Well, well, she moved closer, heels clicking against marble with predatory precision. Hello, dear. So, you're the one, my precious Nico's choice. Lily swallowed hard. She'd thought getting used to this family would be difficult, the mafia part, the danger part. She'd been wrong. This was the hard part. This 80-year-old woman with Nico's eyes and absolutely zero warmth behind them. Rosa's hand found the small of Lily's back, warm and reassuring. She leaned close, her whisper barely audible. Tesoro, if you don't respond at all, it goes faster. Trust me. 40 years of experience. Lily forced a smile onto her face. It's wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Caterina Santoro. She extended her hand. I'm Lily. I know who you are. The interruption was surgical. Her voice flat, distant. Lily Whitmore, 24 years old, junior associate. Caterina's lips curved, but her eyes remained arctic. Orphan, no family, no money, no connections. Lily's spine stiffened. Excuse me? You think I wouldn't investigate the woman marrying my grandson? Caterina stepped closer, her perfume, something expensive and vaguely suffocating, filling the space between them. Of course I needed to know. The Santoro bloodline is precious. Where it continues matters. Heat crept up Lily's neck as the implication settled over her like a weighted blanket. Nico and I haven't discussed children yet. Rosa lunged into the gap like a woman diving on a live grenade. These things take time, Mother Caterina. A few months, maybe a year. They're not thinking about it yet, but life is unpredictable, isn't it? She laughed nervously, the sound too bright. They're a passionate couple, you know, very passionate, and life is full of surprises. Isn't that right, Lily? Lily exhaled slowly through her nose. This was worse than being kidnapped. At least the kidnappers hadn't interrogated her about her reproductive plans. At least they'd had the decency to just shoot at her. 2 hours later, Lily understood why people confessed to crimes they didn't commit. 12 gowns, each one more elaborate than the last, each one earning the same response from Caterina Santoro, a slight frown, a disapproving hum, a dismissive wave of manicured fingers. Lily emerged from the dressing room in gown number 12, sweat dampening her hairline, her patience worn down to a razor's edge. The bodice pinched, the train weighed approximately 40 pounds, and her feet were screaming inside the sample heels. Caterina's nose wrinkled. No? Try the next one, Lillian. Something inside Lily cracked. It's Lily, Mrs. Santoro. She planted her feet on the pedestal. My name is Lily. She drew a breath, steadying herself. And no one has asked my opinion. Not once. I'm confident I could choose a beautiful gown myself, in much less time, without troubling you further. Across the room, Rosa's face went the color of fresh snow. Her lips moved silently, frantically, mouthing words Lily could read from 10 feet away. Lily, no, stop. What are you doing? Caterina turned away as if Lily hadn't spoken at all. Adriano. The tailor materialized instantly, practically bowing. Yes, signora. How may I serve? Why does every gown fit wrong? Caterina gestured at Lily like she was a particularly frustrating math problem. The waist gaps, the hips strain. Explain this to me. Adriano's face performed diplomatic acrobatics. The young lady has a very slim waist, signora, and more generous hips. The proportions are unusual but quite beautiful in their way. And the bust. Caterina waved at Lily's chest with undisguised disappointment. Too small for these necklines. I want her looking magnificent on her wedding day, not flat. She snapped her fingers. Add padding, make them presentable. Lily bit her lower lip hard enough to taste copper. Enzo had been wrong. This woman wasn't a volcano hitting the ocean. She wasn't a natural disaster at all. She was a demolition crew in Chanel, a wrecking ball with lipstick and a grudge. She hadn't come here to help find a dress. She'd come to reduce Lily to rubble and then critique the debris. Mrs. Santoro. Lily's voice came out steady, cold, controlled. Caterina turned, one eyebrow raised. I respect your traditions. Lily stepped down from the pedestal, $12,000 of Italian silk rustling around her. I appreciate your involvement. Your love for Nico is clear. Your dedication to this family is obvious. She met those ice-blue eyes without flinching. But I won't be trying on any more dresses today. I'm a working woman with responsibilities and appointments, and, she gestured at her own body, I'm perfectly happy with what I have, including the parts you'd like to stuff with padding. Caterina's eyes narrowed to slits. She went quiet. Rosa had warned her about this. When Nonna got quiet, even the walls held their breath. Rosa made a small, strangled sound from the settee, somewhere between a gasp and a prayer for divine intervention. Lily wasn't finished. And one more thing, she straightened her spine. Rosa is a gift. As a daughter-in-law, as a mother, as a human being. She's warm, she's patient, she's raised an incredible son who now runs your entire family. Her chin lifted. Your son was lucky to have her. Nico is lucky to have her. I hope someday I can be half the woman she is. Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes glistened, tears threatening to spill over. Oh, tesoro, she whispered, voice cracking. The boutique went absolutely silent. Even the bodyguards seemed to have stopped breathing. Lily smoothed down the gown. Now, I'm going to change. For what it's worth, gowns 2 and 5 were beautiful. Italian lace fitted to the body, exactly like your tradition demands. She paused at the dressing room curtain. Because I happen to agree with you on that. It was lovely meeting you, Mrs. Santoro. I look forward to our next conversation. She changed in record time, fingers trembling, heart slamming against her ribs like a caged bird. Rosa was waiting near the elevator, face pale, hands clasped together like she was praying. Lily grabbed her, pressed a quick kiss to her cheek and whispered against her ear, I'm sorry, Rosa. I couldn't take another second. I ran out of strength. Then she walked out before anyone could stop her. The elevator doors closed behind her, and she sagged against the mirrored wall, face burning, pulse racing. The reality of what she'd just done crashed over her in waves. She talked back to the matriarch of the Santoro family, defended her own body, defended Rosa, walked out on a woman who probably hadn't been contradicted since the Carter administration. Nico was going to lose his mind. His grandmother was going to declare war. Rosa was probably having a heart attack right now. But even as the panic built, something else settled into her chest, something that felt like steel. She wasn't letting anyone make her feel small, not kidnappers, not criminals, not 80-year-old Italian grandmothers with opinions about her breast size. She stepped out onto Fifth Avenue, the cold January air slapping her burning cheeks. Her phone buzzed. Nico. How's the dress shopping? Lily stared at the screen, thumbs hovering. She could picture exactly what he'd do if she told him the truth. Oh, nothing much. Just insulted your grandmother, defended my body, possibly started a family civil war, the usual. She typed back, interesting. Tell you later. Then she started walking, heels clicking against concrete, head held impossibly high. Behind her, 14 floors up, Caterina Santoro stood perfectly still in the center of the boutique, watching the elevator numbers descend, and for the first time in 40 years, the ghost of something unfamiliar flickered behind those ice-blue eyes, something that might have been respect, or the beginning of war. With Caterina Santoro, they were often the same thing. The black SUV pulled through the Marchi estate gates at exactly 3 o'clock. Nico stepped out before Marco could open his door. He adjusted his cufflinks, straightened his watch, Patek Philippe, silver face, his father's, and removed his sunglasses, tucking them into his jacket pocket with the ease of a man who had done this 1,000 times. The afternoon sun caught the sharp line of his jaw as he walked toward the mansion like he owned it. The kind of walk that made men step aside and women forget their own names. His suit, charcoal, custom-fitted, Italian, moved with him like a second skin. He didn't acknowledge the 4 guards flanking the entrance or the staff scrambling to open doors before he reached them. He simply walked, and the world rearranged itself around him. Gabriella Marchi stood at the mansion's entrance, watching him approach. Her teeth sank into her lower lip. She'd been 15 the last time she saw him at some family gathering. Boring, forgettable. Except for the moment Nico Santoro had walked into the room and rearranged her entire understanding of what a man could be. He'd been 24 then, all sharp edges and cold magnetism. Now he was 39 and somehow, impossibly, even better. Her eyes traced every inch of him. The boyish edges were gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. The kind of face that belonged on Roman coins or wanted posters. Those ice-blue eyes held 15 years of blood and power and survival. He reached the entrance and stopped in front of her. "Ms. Marchi?" His tone was flat, professional, like she was an appointment in his calendar. "Mr. Santoro." She extended her hand and let her smile warm. "Welcome to my home." He took her hand, brief, dry, already releasing before she could memorize the feeling. "The conference room," he said, not a question. She touched his arm lightly, guiding him toward the hallway. "This way." He didn't react, didn't glance at her fingers on his sleeve, didn't acknowledge the touch at all. The meeting lasted 40 minutes. Gabriella had prepared for 3 hours of negotiation covering territory disputes, profit margins, and distribution channels. She'd memorized every number, every angle, every possible leverage point. Nico dismantled it all in 40 minutes. "Harbor territory." He flipped a page. "No." "The projections show." "No." "If you'd consider a 60-40 split." "The split is 80-20, my favor." He looked up, his gaze cold and indifferent. "Non-negotiable?" She leaned forward, letting her blouse shift. "There must be something you want, Mr. Santoro." "There is." He closed the folder. "This meeting to end." Gabriella felt a shiver run through her. Cold, so deliciously cold. She tried a different approach, touching his arm while making a point about the Brooklyn roots, casual, light, like punctuation. Nico's gaze dropped to her hand on his sleeve, and his eyebrow lifted in a silent question that needed no words. She removed it. "The terms are final." He stood and buttoned his jacket with precise movements. "My lawyers will send the paperwork by Friday." He was already walking toward the door when Gabriella made her decision. She pressed her hand to her forehead, let her eyelids flutter. "I'm sorry, She swayed in her chair, gripping the edge of the table. "I don't feel well. The room is... everything is spinning." She let herself slide from the chair, and strong hands caught her before she hit the floor. Nico's hands, finally, gripping her waist firmly, pulling her against his chest. His scent filled her lungs as her head fell against him. Sandalwood and something darker, something that made her pulse jump even as she kept her body perfectly limp, her breathing shallow and uneven. In one smooth motion, he lifted her into his arms and carried her to the leather couch, lowering her down with surprising gentleness. "Doctor!" His voice cut through the room, clipped and commanding. "Now!" Through her closed eyelids she tracked the sounds, footsteps, urgent voices, someone dialing a phone, and then warmth beside her, the creak of leather as someone sat close. Her hand reached out blindly, found expensive fabric, gripped it weakly. "Nico!" Her voice came out trembling, fragile. "Stay with me. Please. I don't want to be alone." Silence stretched. She waited for the softening, for that cold voice to warm just slightly. "Miss Marchi." Her blood ran cold. The voice was wrong, too deep, too rough, too... not him. "I'm Marco. Mr. Santoro asked me to stay with you until the doctor arrives." Her eyes flew open to find the bodyguard sitting beside her, hands like dinner plates, face like carved granite, looking at her with polite concern that didn't reach his eyes. She sat up sharply, scanning the room, empty. Then the window, where the black SUV was already disappearing through the gates. He'd handed her off to his bodyguard, like a coat he didn't want to carry. Gabriella stood at the window watching the empty driveway. Victor waited behind her silent until she was ready to speak. "The doctor said you're fine." He kept his voice neutral. "Stress, low blood sugar. He recommends rest." "I know what the doctor said. I told him what to say." She didn't turn around. "He's not like the others, Victor." Nico Santoro, cold, controlled. He saw through it, or didn't care enough to pretend. She turned to face him. "Find out everything about his fiancée. Name, address, weaknesses." Victor shifted. "The wedding is in 3 weeks. That woman figured out how to crack that ice." Her lips curved. "I want to know how, and then I want to do it better." Dinner at the Santoro table had become Lily's favorite part of the day. The chandelier cast warm light over Rosa's lasagna, over the wine glasses catching candlelight, over the 4 of them gathered around a table that had seen 3 generations of family meals. Nico sat at the head, sleeves rolled to his forearms, looking almost relaxed. Rosa kept refilling plates before anyone could object. Enzo was on his 3rd glass of wine and his 5th terrible joke. Lily looked around the table and felt herself relax. It felt like home, like belonging. Nico set down his fork and looked at Lily with those cold blue eyes that still made her stomach flip even after everything. "Did you decide on a dress?" Enzo's wine glass froze halfway to his lips. He stared at his uncle like he'd just announced he was joining a monastery. "Uncle Nico!" He pressed a hand to his chest, dramatic as ever. "I never imagined you would form such a sentence. Life really is full of surprises." He swirled his wine, a grin spreading across his face. "Maybe this year I'll meet a nice girl too. Someone just my type, you know? Sweet, pretty, doesn't try to stab me with kitchen utensils." Rosa swatted his arm with a napkin, but Enzo was already turning to Lily with that dangerous sparkle in his eyes. "Speaking of surprises, I heard you absolutely destroyed Nonna today." Lily's lasagna went down the wrong pipe. She coughed, grabbed her water, felt her face turn crimson while Rosa patted her back and Enzo watched with pure delight. "That's not—" Another cough. She cleared her throat and tried to recover her dignity. "That's not exactly what happened. I was perfectly respectful." Enzo's grin widened until his dimples could have held spare change. "Your Survived Nonna Santoro t-shirt is ready. I'm giving it to you at the wedding after party." Lily opened her mouth to protest, but Nico's gaze caught hers across the table. His eyes had narrowed, studying her like she was a contract with hidden clauses. She couldn't tell if he was angry or impressed or something else entirely. Rosa swooped in before the silence could stretch too long, her voice bright with forced optimism. "I think Nonna loved Lily, actually. Who wouldn't love her?" She reached over to squeeze Lily's hand. "I'm certain she'll invite you to tea this week. Absolutely certain." Lily looked up, confused. "Tea invitation?" Enzo raised his wine glass toward her in a mock toast, his expression shifting to something almost serious. "If Nonna invites you to tea, it means she's considering approval. If she invites you to dinner—" He paused for effect, letting the moment hang. "You're her favorite, her chosen one, the golden child." That hit harder than she expected. She turned to Rosa, genuine sympathy softening her voice. "So you went through all these evaluation stages?" She shook her head. "Oh no, Rosa, that must have been exhausting." Rosa let out a small laugh that held decades of complicated history. "Oh, sweetheart." She picked up her wineglass and took a long sip. "After Nico was born, I was invited to tea exactly once, in 40 years. She set the glass down with a gentle clink. "As for dinner, let's just say I'm still waiting for that invitation, and honestly, tea with Nonna is challenging enough." Her stomach tightened. She tried to look unbothered, tried to focus on her food, but the question escaped before she could stop it. "Nico?" She looked up to find him watching her. "What happens if that tea invitation never comes?" Nico's jaw tightened. His eyes found hers and held them with an intensity that made her breath catch. "That answer requires a private conversation, Bambi." His voice dropped lower. Upstairs. Heat flooded Lily's cheeks, but she held his gaze with determination. Well, I'd prefer to hear the answer here, in front of everyone. Nico rose from his chair. The scrape of wood against floor was the only sound in the suddenly silent dining room. He walked toward the staircase with measured steps, and when he reached the bottom stair, he paused without turning around. I already answered. Then he was climbing the stairs, disappearing into the shadows of the second floor, leaving the words hanging in the air like smoke. Rosa immediately reached for the tiramisu and cut an enormous slice, sliding it onto Lily's plate with a knowing smile that held 40 years of marriage wisdom. "Eat up, sweetheart." She patted Lily's hand, eyes twinkling. "Trust me, you're going to need your strength. You know, Santoro men are... Ugh! Rosa!" Enzo shoved his last bite into his mouth, grabbed his wine and stood. "I'm going to go somewhere far away and pretend this conversation never happened." He was already heading for the door. "Good night, everyone. I'll be in therapy." The fourth office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Lily stood in the middle of the empty space, arms crossed, watching Nico examine the view like he was considering buying the entire skyline. Enzo had claimed a spot by the window, sipping coffee from a paper cup and looking far too entertained. 2 hours, 4 offices, each one more ridiculous than the last. "Nico." She pressed her fingers to her temples, a headache forming. "This is the 4th office we've seen in 2 hours, and every single one has been more luxurious than the last." He turned from the window, expression neutral. And I need something modest." The words came out sharper than she intended, but she couldn't stop them. "I'm going to work with regular people, not wealthy snobs who vacation in the Hamptons. Some of my clients won't even be able to pay me. I'll take cases for free while I build my reputation." She gestured at the marble floors, the designer lighting, the view that screamed old money and exclusivity. "But this place," she shook her head, "it's too intimidating. No one from Brooklyn would step foot in here. They'd take one look at this lobby and run the other way." Silence stretched through the empty office. Nico's expression didn't change, not a flicker of disappointment, not a hint of compromise. He looked at her, gaze sharp, and nodded once. "Then we're taking this one." Lily blinked. "What? No. Did you hear anything I just said?" "Every word." He pulled out his phone. "I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow." Enzo's laugh echoed off the empty walls. He strolled over, coffee cup raised like he was making a toast. "Lily, I'm going to give you some advice." His grin stretched wide enough to show his dimples. "If you say no to this one, Uncle Nico's going to rent the 85th floor of the Empire State Building." He paused, letting that sink in. "And I'm not talking about the observation deck looking at the view." His eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm talking about the view looking at you." Lily's shoulders sagged. She looked between Enzo's grin and Nico's immovable expression, and something in her chest loosened into exhausted acceptance. "Fine." The word came out like a white flag. "Fine, Nico. We'll take this one." She walked toward the window, shaking her head at the Manhattan skyline spread out before her like a promise. "But for the record, I would have preferred Brooklyn." She heard him move before she felt him, the warmth of his body pressed against her back. His hand slid around her waist, fingers spreading across her hip, pulling her against him with a possessiveness that made her breath catch. His other hand found her other hip, and suddenly she was wrapped in him, surrounded by his heat and his scent and the solid wall of his chest. His lips brushed her ear, voice dropping to something low and rough. "Bambi Santoro." Heat bloomed in her cheeks. She felt her teeth sink into her lower lip, a response she couldn't control, her body reacting to his proximity like it had been trained to want him. "You can't leave your natural habitat." His breath was warm against her neck. "This is your ecosystem now." She could feel him smiling against her hair. "Right next to your buck." Somewhere behind them, Enzo choked on his coffee. Liquid sprayed across the marble floor as he coughed, pounding his chest with one hand while waving the other in surrender. "Come on." He wiped his mouth, face twisted in disbelief. I didn't need to hear that, I really didn't. Nico released Lily's waist and walked toward his nephew, his expression shifting back to business. He stopped close enough that Enzo had to look up. The thing we discussed. Nico's voice was quiet, meant only for the two of them. Handle it. Enzo's grin returned, different now, sharper, more focused. He gave a small salute. Consider it done, Uncle Nico, he winked. Enzo's on the case. Lily watched the exchange from across the room. The question formed before she could stop it. What thing? What case? But before she could ask, her attention drifted back to the window. The view stretched for miles. The park, the buildings, the entire city laid out beneath her like a map of possibility. She pressed her palm against the cool glass. Somewhere out there, people needed help. People who couldn't afford the big firms, people who'd been ignored and overlooked and told their problems weren't worth solving. She was going to find them. Lily Whitmore Santoro, attorney at law. He'd already ordered the nameplate. She'd seen it in his office yesterday, gold lettering, her new name, sitting on his desk like a done deal. The wedding was 3 weeks away, but Nico had made his decision the moment she said yes. She smiled at her reflection in the glass. A career was waiting for her, and this time, no one was going to overlook her. A few miles across the city, a white Bentley pulled up to Caterina Santoro's residence, the original Santoro estate, where 3 generations of family power had been built and maintained. Gabriella Marchi stepped out in a cream silk dress and a fur coat that screamed old money and new ambition. Her stilettos clicked against the cobblestones as she approached the entrance, hips swaying with the confidence of a woman who had never been told no. Salvatore, known to everyone as Toto, stood waiting in the open doorway. 70 years old, thin as a blade, dressed in a 3-piece suit that had been tailored sometime during the Reagan administration and still fit perfectly. He had served the Santoro family for 46 years, and his loyalty to Nonna Caterina was the stuff of household legend. He watched Gabriella's approach with the detached interest of a scientist observing a specimen. Without turning his head, he addressed the shadow standing behind him in the foyer. White fur, Signora. Stilettos. His voice carried the dry precision of a sommelier describing a disappointing wine. Perfume strong enough to announce her arrival from the driveway. Posture suggests confidence, though I would classify it as arrogance. Attractive, in a manufactured sort of way, the walk of someone who expects doors to open. Nonna Caterina's voice floated from the darkness, cool and amused. A woman who needs fur to feel important was never important to begin with. The sound of heels on marble, unhurried. Very well, Toto. I'll assess the rest myself. Gabriella reached the doorway, smile bright as a blade. I'm here to see the legendary Caterina Santoro. Toto didn't move. You should have made an appointment, Ms. Marchi. I'm an old family friend. Gabriella's smile stretched wider, showing too many teeth. Surely she can spare a moment for... Her eyes caught movement in the shadows. Besides, I can see her standing right behind you. Silence stretched. Then Caterina Santoro stepped into the light, and Gabriella understood, perhaps for the first time, what real power looked like. 80 years old, black hair perfectly styled, ice blue eyes that had clearly been passed down to her grandson, a simple black dress that cost nothing and everything at once, no jewelry except a single strand of pearls, no fur, no stilettos, no need. Fine, Toto. Nonna waved a hand. Let her in. Gabriella swept forward with her arms spreading wide, her voice warming to honey. The legendary Caterina Santoro. I've admired you since I was 15 years old. She stopped just short of embracing the older woman, arms still open in theatrical welcome. You're an icon, truly, everything I aspire to be. Nonna's expression didn't change. A lovely entrance, Gabriella. Her voice was silk over steel. But if you truly wanted to follow my example, you would have learned that making an appointment is a sign of respect. She turned and walked toward the sitting room, not checking to see if Gabriella followed. I'll allow this visit, once. Next time, you call ahead. My home is not a train station." Gabriella's smile tightened, but her voice remained bright as she followed. "The fact that we're already discussing a next time, I'll take that as a good sign." They settled into the receiving room, all antique furniture and family portraits. Gabriella's eyes swept across the walls, the photographs, the history embedded in every surface. "So this is where Nico grew up." She ran her fingers along the back of a velvet chair. "I can see the influence." Nonna lowered herself into an armchair by the window and fixed Gabriella with that cold gaze. "Why are you here, Gabriella?" Not a question, a command. Gabriella settled into the opposite chair, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. "Nico has been difficult about our business partnerships." She sighed, as if discussing a wayward child. "Every proposal, every offer, he finds a reason to decline. Such a stubborn man." "He is." Nonna's lips curved just slightly. "It runs in the family." "I want those partnerships to happen." Gabriella leaned forward, letting sincerity creep into her voice. "And more than that, I want Nico. I want him to be mine." The words hung in the air like smoke. Nonna's eyebrows rose by a fraction of an inch, the most surprise she'd shown in years. "You're direct. I'll give you that." She folded her hands in her lap. "What exactly are you asking of me?" "Support." Gabriella's eyes gleamed. "For the business arrangements, and for a marriage that would make both our families stronger." "He's engaged." Nonna's voice was flat. "The wedding is in 3 weeks." "But he's not married yet." Gabriella tilted her head, smile sharpening. "And surely you, of all people, must have reservations about his choice. A girl with no name, no family, no power to bring to this union." She spread her hands. "What does she offer the Santoro legacy?" "Nothing." Nonna's eyes narrowed to blue slits. "And what would you offer?" "My name." Gabriella counted on her fingers. "My connections, the merger of 2 empires, and—" She paused, letting the moment build. "My complete devotion to your grandson." Silence filled the room. Nonna studied her for a long moment, expression unreadable. "You're bold, girl. I respect boldness." She uncrossed her ankles and leaned back in her chair. "But the decision belongs to Nico, not to me. And I trust his judgment." Something flickered across Gabriella's face. Frustration, quickly masked. She swallowed once, but her smile held. "Stand with me." Her voice dropped, urgent now. "If you're on my side, I can handle the rest." Nonna's head moved, the barest inclination, so slight it could have meant anything or nothing at all. "I have things to attend to." She rose from her chair, dismissal clear in every line of her body. "You've delivered your message. I've given my answer. Next time, make an appointment. Not everyone gets to walk into my home whenever they please." Gabriella stood, that bright smile still painted across her face. "Of course, Mrs. Santoro, thank you for your time." She walked to the door with perfect posture, perfect poise, perfect grace. The moment she stepped outside and heard the door close behind her, her smile dropped. "Old witch?" The words came out in a hiss as she stalked toward her car. "Stay out of my way, that's all I ask." Inside, Caterina Santoro settled into her favorite chair by the fireplace, accepting the morning espresso that Toto had prepared. He stood at a respectful distance, hands clasped behind his back. "What will you do, signora?" Nonna lifted the tiny cup to her lips, inhaled the aroma, and smiled, a real smile this time, small and knowing and ancient. "May the best woman win, Toto." She took a sip. "May the best woman win." Lily Whitmore stood in the center of her new office, morning sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and let herself breathe. This was finally real. Her office. Her name on the door. Well, almost her name. Her eyes drifted to the frosted glass. Lily Whitmore Santoro, attorney at law. She'd added Whitmore yesterday, after Nico had the sign made. He'd ordered it as Lily Santoro. No discussion, no question, just assumption. Classic Nico. She'd called the sign company herself and had them squeeze her maiden name in before they installed it. She touched the glass, tracing the letters. The question surfaced before she could stop it. Am I ready for this? Whitmore is everything I built. Will Santoro swallow it whole? She shook her head. Both names, both women. Maybe that was the answer. Enzo had appointed himself Director of Moral Support, which meant sitting on her desk eating a breakfast sandwich and criticizing everything that passed through the door. That lamp is ugly. He pointed at a mover carrying a brass fixture through the doorway. Very divorce lawyer in a made-for-TV movie energy. Lily glanced up from a box of files. Gift from Rosa. His expression shifted instantly, hand flying to his chest. That lamp is beautiful, timeless, a classic. The front door opened, and Lily didn't need to turn around to know who it was. The air itself seemed to shift when Nico entered a room. She heard his footsteps, measured and deliberate, before his voice reached her. Bambi. She turned. He stood just inside the door, 2 coffees in hand, dark suit, no tie. His eyes moved past her to the frosted glass, and something flickered in those cold eyes. Whitmore. The word landed flat, heavy with unspoken questions. I added it. She walked over and took one of the coffees from his hand, feeling the warmth of his fingers brush against hers. You ordered Lily Santoro. I made a correction. His jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath the skin. We're getting married in 2 weeks. And I built a career as Lily Whitmore. She rose on her toes and pressed a kiss to his cheek, feeling the slight rasp of stubble against her lips. Both names, both women. Deal with it. Enzo spoke through a mouthful of sandwich, completely unbothered by the tension filling the room. She's almost half your age, Uncle Nico. Get used to surprises. Nico's gaze stayed fixed on her for a long moment, something shifting behind those frozen eyes. Then he looked at the door again, at those 3 words etched in glass, before turning back to her. Fine. His hand settled on her waist, warm and possessive, pulling her slightly closer. But the wedding invitations say Santoro, obviously. Later, while unpacking boxes, Lily noticed the door across the hall had a new sign, sleek black lettering on brass, Various Things Trading Co. She frowned, pausing with a stack of law books in her arms. Last week it said Henderson Architecture. Now it was Various Things? The lights inside were off, no movement visible through the frosted glass. Weird, she thought. She filed it away and turned back to her chaos. She had bigger problems, like finding an assistant who wouldn't set the office on fire. The first 3 interviews were disasters. Candidate 1 asked if her husband would be supervising her work. Candidate 2 didn't believe in filing systems. The universe knows where everything is. Candidate 3 arrived 40 minutes late, reeking of vodka. By the time the 4th candidate was due, Lily had abandoned hope entirely. Then the door flew open and a blur of blonde hair went sprawling across the threshold. I'm fine, the voice came from the floor. The floor and I have a complicated relationship. The blur resolved into a young woman, 22, bright blue eyes, scrambling to her feet with cheerful determination. Ms. Santoro, I'm Daphne Brooks, part-time intern at Columbia Law. I've read everything about your Valente case. Please hire me. All of this came out without a single breath. 20 minutes later, Lily had learned 3 things. Daphne was genuinely brilliant, a walking disaster, and exactly what she needed. She'd knocked over a pencil cup and spilled water on her own resume, but solved a complex jurisdiction hypothetical in under a minute. When can you start? Daphne's eyes went wide. Wait, really? You're hired? Something cracked in Daphne's voice. No one's ever given me a chance before. They see the mess and don't look deeper. Lily knew that feeling. I see the mess. I also see what's underneath. The door swung open and Enzo walked in backwards, phone pressed to his ear. No, I told Marco, the blue one. It's literally a color, Marco. He turned around at the exact moment Daphne stood up from her chair. Physics did its math. They collided, Enzo's phone went flying, and Daphne's bag hit the floor, scattering lipstick, pens, and a truly alarming number of hair ties across the hardwood. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Daphne dropped to her knees, scrambling to collect her things, face flushing crimson. No, that's on me. Enzo crouched beside her, and their hands touched, reaching for the same lipstick. Both froze for a moment before Daphne snatched her hand back, cheeks burning even brighter. Sorry, am I in your way? She scrambled to her feet, clutching her bag to her chest. You're fine. Enzo stood, that signature grin spreading across his face. I don't know where I'm going anyway. Honestly, I never do. It's kind of my whole thing. Daphne, her voice came out higher than normal. I work here now. He released her hand and headed for the door, then stopped at the threshold and turned back to Lily. Hire this girl. He pointed at Daphne, his expression shifting to something almost serious. Lily raised an eyebrow. I already did. Good. He nodded firmly, leaning against the doorframe. She's my future. Daphne made a small choking sound, and Lily's other eyebrow joined the first. You've known her for 2 minutes, Enzo. You fell for Uncle Nico in a week. He shrugged, crossing his arms. Romance moves fast these days, Lily. Keep up. He winked at Daphne and disappeared into the hallway. Silence filled the room. Daphne stood frozen, face the color of a ripe tomato, staring at the empty doorway. Then she turned to Lily, eyes wide. Is he always like that? Unfortunately, yes. Daphne pressed a hand to her chest. He's really hot, and really weird. That's my type. She paused, her face falling. Oh no, I just told my new boss about my type. On my first day? Lily raised an eyebrow. You're very honest? It's a problem. No filter. Daphne groaned. My brain just outputs everything, directly to my mouth. A laugh escaped Lily, the first real one all day. I like you already, Daphne. Daphne beamed, grabbed her scattered belongings and headed for the door. She made it 3 steps before walking directly into a filing cabinet. I meant to do that. She steadied herself, not meeting Lily's eyes. Testing the furniture. Very sturdy. Good purchase. The next day, Lily got her first real client. Well, second, if she counted Nico. But this one was actually paying. The woman who walked in looked like she was holding herself together by sheer force of will. Designer clothes, flawless posture, the kind of handbag that screamed old money. But her hands were shaking, and her eyes kept darting to the door like she expected someone to burst through it. Ms. Santoro? Her voice was tight, controlled. I'm Claire Ashford. I need your help. Lily gestured to the chair across from her desk. Please sit down. How did you find me? Claire lowered herself into the chair, clutching her bag like a lifeline. Word travels fast in certain circles. She paused and whispered, choosing her words carefully. They say you have connections, the kind that can't be bought. My husband has tried to buy every divorce attorney in Manhattan. I need someone he can't touch. Lily kept her expression neutral, even as something cold settled in her stomach. Connections. Right. The Santoro name was already opening doors and closing others. I specialize in commercial law, Lily said, but I do take divorce cases. Tell me about your situation. Claire's composure cracked just slightly. 6 years. She stared at her hands. We've been married 6 years, and I don't know who he is. I don't know what he does. He says investments, but the phone calls at 3 a.m., the trips that last weeks, the men who show up at our door. She shook her head. Something is wrong. Something dangerous. I can feel it. Lily's pen stopped moving. Have you asked him directly? He lies. Claire's voice hardened. He looks me in the eye and lies like it's breathing, and I'm supposed to smile and play the good wife and pretend I don't notice. The words landed somewhere uncomfortable in Lily's chest. She thought of Nico's phone calls in Italian, the meetings he never explained, the parts of his life she'd learned to stop asking about. Is there anything else? Claire laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Isn't that enough? She looked up, eyes bright with unshed tears. I don't trust him. I don't know what he does. And lately, there's been someone else. A woman. I found her number in his jacket. When I called it, she answered, Darling. The pen in Lily's hand pressed harder into the paper. From the corner of her eye she caught Daphne frozen at her desk, a donut halfway to her mouth, watching the scene with wide eyes. "Mrs. Ashford." Lily set down the pen and folded her hands. "I'll take your case." Claire's breath caught. "You will? Just like that?" "Yeah, just like that." "But you don't know who my husband is. You don't know what he's capable of." "I know enough." Lily met her eyes steadily. "You came here because no one else would help you. That's exactly why I became a lawyer." Something shifted in Claire's face, hope maybe, or the beginning of trust. "He'll come for you," she warned. "The moment he finds out, he'll try to intimidate you into dropping me." Lily smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Let him try." After Claire left, Daphne appeared with 2 cups of coffee. "That was intense." "That was Tuesday." Lily reached for the coffee. Daphne hesitated. "Some of what she said about secrets, not knowing what her husband does." She trailed off. Lily took a long sip. "Every marriage has secrets, Daphne. The question is whether they're worth keeping." Daphne nodded, then brightened. "Should I start a file?" "Absolutely, Daphne. Start a file." Claire's words echoed. "He looks me in the eye and lies like it's breathing." Lily walked to the window. She'd known Nico for 3 months, and they were getting married. It should have felt reckless, but it didn't. He'd devoted himself to her completely. For the first time in her life, she belonged somewhere. But Claire had probably felt certain once too. She trusted Nico. She did. So why couldn't she shake the questions? The next morning, the knock came at 6. Lily groaned into her pillow. Nico's side of the bed was already cold. He'd left an hour ago, kissing her forehead while she mumbled something about 5 more minutes. The knock came again, harder. "Lily Tesoro?" Rosa's voice filtered through the door. "I need your help. So much stress." 20 minutes later, Lily sat at the kitchen table, staring at wedding planning ground zero. 14 bridal magazines, 3 cake catalogues, one featuring a 10-tier monstrosity that looked more like architecture than dessert, and in the center, a handwritten list that seemed to go on forever. Lily picked it up. Her eyes widened. "Rosa, this list has 700 people on it." Rosa looked up from a magazine. "Yes, Tesoro, a small, intimate gathering." Lily shook her head. 700 is not small. "For a Santoro wedding?" Rosa waved her hand. "This is practically eloping." "Can we keep this to 100? Lily tried. Rosa's hand flew to her chest. 100? Our household staff alone is 100. Okay. Lily held up her hands. "But surely we don't need everyone." Rosa's expression shifted, pulling out a pen. "You're right, not everyone." She crossed off a name with aggressive satisfaction. "The Morettis. When their grandson married, they sent only a card, after 40 years of friendship." Another name slashed. "They can read about this wedding in the newspaper." Lily watched Rosa's fierce loyalty in action. This woman had adopted her without question, defended her without hesitation, and was now eliminating anyone who had ever slighted her family. Her eyes drifted to a catalogue that had slipped from the pile. Pastel balloons. A teddy bear cake. Lily held it up. "Rosa, why is there a children's cake book here?" Rosa's face lit up. "For the baby shower, Tesoro. After we choose the wedding cake, we could maybe also—" "I'm not pregnant." Lily's voice came out flat. "Not yet." Rosa's eyes sparkled. "But it's good to plan ahead, no?" From the corner of the kitchen, Enzo's voice drifted over. He stood at the refrigerator in SpongeBob pajama pants, drinking milk directly from the carton. "Run, Bambi." He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "Save yourself. I've seen this before with my cousin's wedding." His expression went distant, haunted. "She still has PTSD. Lily turned back to Rosa. "You're like a mother to me. I trust you completely. The cake should be white. Beyond that, choose whatever you want. Baby shower can wait a few years." She was already moving toward the stairs. "I have a client meeting this morning." "Lily, you didn't eat your omelette." She pretended not to hear. Rosa pressed her hands to her heart, turning to Enzo. "What a beautiful soul. She trusts me with everything." Her voice dropped. "After Caterina," she crossed herself, "I deserved this blessing." Enzo raised the milk carton in a toast. "Karma, Rosa, karma." The woman who walked through Lily's office door looked like she'd stepped out of a perfume commercial. Dark hair in perfect waves, designer dress, and a smile bright enough to sell toothpaste. "Hello," she extended a manicured hand. "I'm Gabriella Marchi, old friend of the Santoro family. Rosa practically raised me alongside Enzo." Her smile widened. "I heard Nico's fiancée opened her own firm. Had to come meet the woman who finally caught him." Lily shook her hand, noting the way Gabby's eyes swept the office with predatory speed. "Nice to meet you, Gabriella." Gabriella's grip tightened with theatrical warmth. "Oh, honey, please, call me Gabby. Everyone does." She settled into the chair across from Lily, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. Then her expression froze. Her eyes locked onto Lily's face, and she took a small step backward, hand rising to her throat. Lily frowned. "Is something wrong?" "It's just—" Gabby shook her head slowly. "You look exactly like her. The resemblance is uncanny." Dread pooled in Lily's belly. "Like who?" "Stephanie." Gabby's voice dropped to something almost reverent. "Nico's ex-fiancée, one of my closest friends." A sad smile flickered across her face. "She lives in Switzerland now, but seeing you, it's like looking at her twin." Something cold slithered down Lily's spine. She kept her expression neutral, even as her thoughts scattered like dropped marbles. "I didn't know. Nico had a fiancée before." Gabby pulled out her phone, scrolling with practiced ease. "Here, this is us in Capri." Two women laughing on a yacht. The blonde beside Gabby was pretty, delicate features, light hair, but Lily tilted her head, studying the image. "I don't really see it," she frowned. "She's blonde. I'm not. Different face shape, too." Gabby's eyes widened. "Oh, honey, no, it's uncanny. The eyes, the smile, the way you carry yourself." She shook her head with theatrical wonder. "Trust me, everyone will see it." "And this one?" Gabby's finger slipped, and another photo filled the screen. A younger Nico, his face softer than Lily had ever seen, gazing at the blonde with something raw in those ice-blue eyes. The intimacy in that single image hit her like a blow. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry." Gabby pulled the phone back, cheeks flushing. "I took that years ago. Must have stayed in my favorites." She tucked the phone away. "Nico was quite the heartbreaker back then. Before you, obviously. Stephanie left the country after they ended things. Couldn't bear to stay." A pause, heavy with implication. "But that's ancient history. He's marrying you now, right?" The words landed wrong. Too bright, too careful. Gabby straightened, smoothing her dress. "Anyway, I came to discuss business. Everyone's talking about how you took down the Valentis. I thought maybe you could handle some of my legal matters." Lily shook her head. "I appreciate that, Gabby, but I'm focusing on different cases now. Family work I only handle for Nico." Gabby's smile flickered. Loss? Disappointment? Too performed to tell. "Oh, that's a shame," she sighed, gathering her purse. "You know how it is with families like ours. So many complicated matters. Legal grey areas." She waved a hand dismissively. "I always thought Nico was so lucky, marrying a lawyer who could actually handle the messier side of things, keep everything in-house, so to speak." She rose, smoothing her dress. "But I respect your boundaries, of course." A pause at the door. "And please, don't mention this to Nico. I feel terrible for bringing up Stephanie. It wasn't my place. I wouldn't want him upset." Lily's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Of course, Gabby." The door clicked shut. Lily stared at the empty space for a long moment. Then she spoke to the silence. "Just shocked, were you, Gabriella Marchi?" Her voice came out quiet, edged with ice. Sure you were. She sank into her chair. An ex-fiancé she supposedly looked like, though Lily hadn't seen it. A man who'd never mentioned her. A woman who'd let that photo slip a little too conveniently. It doesn't mean anything. People have pasts. Nico chose you. But why? Because Gabby planted a seed she couldn't shake? Because she was a lawyer who could handle his family's grey areas? Or because he actually loved her? Just her, Lily Whitmore, the girl who got into the wrong car? The doubt had already taken root, curling through her chest like smoke. The restaurant was the kind of place where the menu had no prices, and the waiters spoke in hushed tones. Candlelight flickered across white linen, and Nico poured wine into Lily's glass with practiced ease, his ice-blue eyes holding hers over the rim. He looked devastating tonight. Dark suit, no tie, that sharp jaw catching shadows. Lily noticed other women's gazes drifting toward their table, lingering on him with barely concealed interest. She took a sip of wine, letting the warmth settle in her chest. Nico. Lily set her glass down, tracing the stem with her finger. We're getting married in 3 weeks, and we've never really talked about our pasts. His eyes narrowed slightly. We'll have a lifetime to talk, Bambi. Lily shifted in her seat, the leather creaking beneath her. I mean, I don't know anything about the women in your past. Anyone serious before me? Nico lifted his glass, taking a slow sip before answering. They're in the past. That's where they belong. Did you ever get serious with anyone else? Think about marrying them? He went still, his gaze sharpening. Lily, I'm not the kind of man who sits around rehashing old relationships. You should know me by now. His jaw tightened. I don't see the point. Heat flooded Lily's face. Really? But I'm sure you dug up everything about my life after we met. Nico exhaled slowly, setting his glass down with deliberate care. Where's this coming from, Bambi? You know I love you. Why? The word came out sharper than she intended. Why do you love me? We've known each other 3 months, and let's be honest, how we met wasn't exactly a fairy tale. A ghost of a smile flickered across his face. I think it makes a great story for our children. I'm serious, Nico. Her nails dug crescents into her palms beneath the table. You're surrounded by beautiful women all the time. Why me? He leaned back, studying her with those unreadable eyes. You're fire, Lily Whitmore. You're real. You're brilliant. His voice dropped lower. You're mine, but you never completely surrender to me. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. Except in our bed. A bitter laugh escaped her throat. So you could have picked any smart, fiery woman. What makes me different? Nico's expression hardened. Are you trying to start a fight tonight, Lily? His voice went flat. If so, let's go home. She pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the floor. I need to use the restroom first. Then we can leave. She walked away without looking back, her heels striking the marble with sharp, angry clicks. Behind her, she heard Nico mutter something under his breath. Women. Do they always have to be this complicated? Lily gripped the bathroom sink, staring at her reflection. Get it together. He loves you. Stop looking for problems. She dried her hands and headed back toward the table, weaving through the restaurant. From across the room, she spotted their booth, and froze mid-step. A woman sat in her seat, dark hair cascading down her back, her hand resting on Nico's arm with casual intimacy. Nico was staring at his wineglass, turning it slowly between his fingers. The woman stood, her hand trailing up from his arm to brush his neck as she rose. She walked away with quick, confident strides, and as she passed under a chandelier, Lily recognized her. Gabriella Manchi. Something cold coiled in Lily's stomach as she approached the table. Nico looked up, his expression neutral. Who was that? Lily's voice came out sharper than intended. No one. He was already standing, pulling out his wallet. Let's go. The drive home was silent. Lily stared out the window, watching city lights blur past, her jaw clenched so tight, her teeth ached. Inside the mansion, she walked straight to their bedroom. Nico followed, loosening his tie. Lily. She grabbed her pillow and the throw blanket from the foot of the bed. He stopped in the doorway, confusion flickering across his features. "What are you doing?" She didn't look at him. "Guest room?" She pushed past him. "Good night, Nico." Enzo appeared in the hallway, hair disheveled, clearly heading to the kitchen for a midnight snack. His eyebrows shot up at the sight of Lily marching past with bedding in her arms. "Hey, what's going on?" She didn't slow down. "Ask your uncle. Mr. Secret's over there." Hours passed. Lily lay in the dark of the guest room, staring at the ceiling, sleep refusing to come. Her mind kept circling back to Gabby's hand on Nico's arm, the photograph of Stephanie, that infuriating phrase, "No one." She didn't hear the door open. But she felt herself being lifted, strong arms sliding beneath her knees behind her back, and then warmth surrounded her as Nico carried her down the hallway. She kept her eyes closed, her body rigid with stubborn anger. He laid her in their bed, the familiar scent of their sheets wrapping around her. The mattress dipped as he settled beside her, and then his fingers were in her hair, stroking slowly. Her eyes opened. "Nico." He looked down at her in the darkness, his face carved in shadow. "Tell me, Bambi. Are you keeping secrets from me?" His hand stilled for a moment. Then he leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. "Yes, Bambi." His voice was rough, barely above a whisper. "I have secrets." Her heart stuttered. But then his fingers found the strap of her nightgown, sliding it off her shoulder with agonizing slowness. "You don't know everything yet," he murmured against her skin, "about what I want to do to you." His lips traced her collarbone. "You've only seen the previews." His kiss was fire, possessive, consuming, leaving no room for doubt or questions. His mouth moved down her throat, across her chest, lower. Heat bloomed in her belly, spreading through her like honey, erasing every coherent thought. "You're the one, Bambi." His voice was gravel against her stomach, his breath hot on her skin. "And you're mine." Her fingers tangled in his hair as his kisses moved lower still. Her back arched, her body melting toward him like wax to flame. Want crashed through her, obliterating everything else. The anger, the doubt, the photograph that had haunted her all day. There was only this, only him, only the fire building between them until rational thought became impossible. She stopped thinking entirely. The afternoon sun cut sharp angles across the Manhattan sidewalk as Nico stepped out of the building, his mind already on the drive home. Lily would be finishing at her office soon, and he'd promised Rosa he'd bring her back for dinner. "Nico?" The voice stopped him mid-stride, familiar, soft, carrying a warmth he hadn't heard in years. He turned. A woman stood on the sidewalk, early 30s, honey-blonde hair catching the light, a tentative smile playing on her lips. She wore a cream-colored coat, elegant and understated, and something in her posture spoke of nervous anticipation. Stephanie. The name came out neutral, guarded. Her smile widened, and before he could react, she closed the distance between them and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her perfume, jasmine, surrounded him briefly. "Look at you, it's been forever." She pulled back just enough to look at his face, her hands lingering on his shoulders. 7 years, Nico. 7 years. He returned the embrace, but carefully, a quick pat on her back before stepping out of her reach. "I thought you were still in Switzerland." "Came back 6 months ago." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture he remembered from another lifetime. "The divorce finalized about a year ago. I needed a fresh start, you know. I'm working at the Hartley Gallery now, just down the street, actually." A soft laugh escaped her. "I can't believe we've been this close for 6 months and never ran into each other." Nico's expression remained neutral, but his mind was already calculating. 6 months. The gallery was 4 blocks away. This wasn't coincidence. This was patience. "I'm sorry about your marriage," he said, his voice flat. "Don't be." Something flickered in her eyes, regret maybe, or relief. "Some things just aren't meant to last." She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his jaw tighten. You look good, Nico. Same as always. Maybe better. The building door swung open behind them. Enzo emerged, car keys spinning around his finger, and stopped dead when he saw who Nico was talking to. Holy shit, Stephanie! She turned, her face lighting up. Enzo! Oh my God, look at you! She pulled him into a hug, and Enzo, never one to refuse affection, squeezed her back with genuine warmth. You got tall, she said, stepping back to take him in. Last time I saw you, you were this scrawny teenager raiding Rosa's kitchen at midnight. Still do that, actually, Enzo grinned. Some things never change. Stephanie laughed, then turned back to Nico, something hopeful in her expression. Listen, I'd love to catch up properly. Maybe grab a coffee sometime. She paused, her voice softening. Or now, if you have a few minutes. Nico's eyes narrowed slightly. Enzo stepped in smoothly, his tone casual but deliberate. Actually, Lily's waiting for us. We're already running late. Lily? Stephanie's brow furrowed. My fiancée. Nico watched her face carefully as he said it. We're getting married in 2 weeks. Something shifted behind her eyes. Surprise, quickly masked. Her smile stayed in place, but the warmth dimmed by a few degrees. Congratulations. The word came out measured, polished. That's wonderful news. Nico pulled out his phone, made a note. I'll have the office send you an invitation. Hartley Gallery, you said? Yes, she nodded, composure firmly back in place. I'd like that. Take care of yourself, Stephanie. He was already moving toward the SUV, Enzo falling into step beside him. You too, Nico. Her voice followed them across the sidewalk. It was really good to see you. The car pulled into traffic. Enzo drove in uncharacteristic silence for approximately 90 seconds before his eyes slid toward Nico. What? Nico didn't look away from the window. Nothing, just processing. Enzo tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. So, Stephanie, showing up out of nowhere, looking like that. His eyes slid toward Nico. Were you affected? Nico finally turned, his gaze flat. Things end up in the past because they're finished. That's how it works. And the only woman I love is waiting for me at home. Enzo exhaled, shoulders dropping with visible relief. Good. Because for a second there, I thought you were going to shake my faith in true love, Uncle Nico. A ghost of a smile flickered across Nico's face before he turned back to the window. Speaking of love, his tone shifted. How's Daphne? Enzo's grin returned. Taking it slow. I'm taking her to lunch tomorrow. You met her 2 days ago. Nico's brow furrowed. Where's the slow part? I'm taking her to lunch, Uncle Nico. Not a club, not a hotel. Lunch, in daylight. He shook his head. For my generation, that's basically proposing. Nico was quiet for a moment. Would you tell her? About the women before her? Enzo's grin turned knowing, almost smug. Already handled. We covered it all in like 3 texts. She knows my history, I know hers. Clean slate, no surprises. Enzo flashed a grin. Gen Z invented emotional transparency. You guys invented bottling everything up until it explodes. Nico said nothing. You should try it sometime. The talking thing. Enzo glanced at him. Oh, wait, you'd need to upgrade from your flip phone first. I don't have a flip phone. Your communication style does. Nico turned back to the window, his jaw tight. Stephanie's face lingered at the edge of his thoughts. A door he'd thought was closed. Enzo's voice cut through the silence. You're gonna tell Lily, right? Nico didn't answer, and they both knew what that meant. The big Santoro estate sat high above the Hudson Valley, its stone walls holding secrets that stretched back generations. In the drawing room, Caterina Santoro stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of Barolo in her weathered hand, watching the last of the afternoon light bleed across the hills. Behind her, Toto waited in respectful silence, hands clasped, posture impeccable. Toto. Caterina didn't turn from the window. Tell me what's happening in my grandson's life. Of course, Signora. Toto inclined his head, his tone measured and respectful. Gabriella Marchi paid a visit to your future daughter-in-law, Miss Whitmore, at her office. Afterward, she made contact with Miss Stephanie Dares, Mr. Nico's former fiancée. From what we've gathered, she arranged for them to cross paths. The meeting appeared coincidental. He paused. It was not. Caterina's finger traced the rim of her glass. Did she now? Additionally, Toto continued, Miss Marchi has been making moves on the New Jersey development bid. She's formed an alliance with the Lombardis, the Valenti cousins. Silence settled over the room. Caterina took a slow sip of wine, a slow smile spreading across her face. So, her voice was soft, she's willing to fight dirty to get her hands on my Nico. She turned slowly to face Toto, her ice-blue eyes sharp despite her 80 years. Toto, which one would I choose to bring into my family? Toto smiled and lowered his head, offering no answer. Arrange a gathering, Caterina said. This week. Invite everyone. She moved toward her chair, her steps unhurried. A true Santoro woman knows how to navigate any mess with grace. As you wish, Signora. Caterina raised her glass, studying the wine against the fading light. Let them come. Let them show me who they really are. She took a long, satisfied sip. Then I'll decide, and Nico will decide. Across the city, Lily was gathering her things to leave for the day. The late afternoon sun slanted through her office window, catching the crystal vase on her desk where a dozen long-stemmed white roses stood in elegant arrangement. She paused, her fingers brushing a velvet petal, a smile tugging at her lips. Nico Santoro, dangerous mafia boss, sends flowers like a lovesick teenager. The card had simply read, counting the hours. Nico. A mischievous warmth spread through her chest. In 3 weeks, she'd be Mrs. Santoro, and somehow that thought had stopped terrifying her and started feeling like... Suddenly, the door burst open. A man walked in without invitation, tall, silver-streaked hair, the kind of tan that came from golf courses and yacht decks. His suit probably cost more than Lily's first car. Behind him, Daphne appeared in the doorway, slightly breathless. I told him you weren't available, Miss Whitmore. It's fine, Daphne. Lily kept her voice calm, though her spine straightened. She recognized the face from Claire's file. Richard Ashford, hedge fund manager. The husband. He didn't wait for an invitation to sit. You're going to drop my wife's case. Lily settled into her chair, folding her hands on the desk. I don't believe we have an appointment, Mr. Ashford. We don't need one. He leaned forward, his smile thin and practiced. This is a simple conversation. You're a smart woman. You'll understand. I understand that your wife hired me to represent her interests. My wife is confused. His jaw tightened. She'll come around. In the meantime, I'm asking you, politely, to step away. Lily tilted her head. And if I don't? Then you'll find that practicing law in this city becomes difficult. He spread his hands, the gesture almost casual. I know people, judges, bar association members. One phone call, and your little firm here becomes a memory. Something cold settled in Lily's chest, not fear, but clarity. She'd spent years being overlooked, dismissed, pushed aside by men exactly like this one. Not anymore. Mr. Ashford, she leaned forward, holding his gaze. I wasn't sure about taking this case. Divorce isn't my specialty. His smile widened, triumphant. But now? Lily's voice hardened. Now I'm definitely taking it. Specifically because you walked in here and tried to intimidate me. The smile vanished. If I don't take this case, I can't live with myself. She stood, palms flat on the desk. And if you don't agree to the settlement I'm preparing, I will take everything you have. Every offshore account, every shell company, every asset you've been hiding from your wife for the past 6 years. His face went red. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I think I do. Lily's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I've dealt with scarier men than you, Mr. Ashford. Trust me. The office door swung open. 2 men stepped inside. Different suits, same unmistakable energy. The kind of energy that said, "We handle problems." "Everything okay in here, Mrs. Santoro?" The stocky one, salt and pepper hair, friendly eyes that contrasted sharply with his linebacker build, smiled warmly. Ashford's head snapped toward them. "Who the hell are you?" "Her bodyguards?" "Bodyguards." The word hit Lily like lightning. She glanced at the 2 men, then back at Ashford, something clicking into place. Nico. He'd never let her work alone. Not really. But that was a conversation for later. She turned back to Ashford, her voice ice. "Here's how this is going to work. You're going to sign the settlement I send over tomorrow. Or I'm going to drag you through the longest, most expensive divorce proceeding this city has ever seen." Ashford looked at her, this small, young woman standing behind her desk. Then at the 2 men blocking the doorway, their expressions flat and patient. His jaw worked. "Fine." He pointed a finger at her. "But this isn't over." "Yes, it is." Lily didn't blink. "Goodbye, Mr. Ashford." He left without another word, shouldering past the 2 men, his footsteps sharp and angry on the hardwood. Lily exhaled slowly, then turned to the 2 men. "Who are you?" Her eyes narrowed. "Did Nico send you?" The stocky one held up both hands, his expression innocent. "Absolutely not, Mrs. Santoro. We're just employees of Various Things Trading Company, your neighbor, office across the hall." He placed a hand on his chest. "I'm Luigi, and this is our head of marketing, Tony." Tony, younger, dark-haired, with the eager expression of a golden retriever in a suit, straightened proudly. "That's right, head of marketing." Lily stared at him. "Marketing for Various Things Trading Company." He shrugged, completely serious. "Someone's got to do it." Lily studied them for a moment. "That's an interesting company name." Luigi shrugged. "We like it. Very versatile." "What exactly do you sell?" Lily crossed her arms. They answered in perfect unison. "Various things." Lily blinked. "Got it. Very comprehensive." Luigi gestured toward the hallway. "We were just heading out and we saw that guy storm in. Didn't like the look of him." He shrugged his massive shoulders. "Figured we'd check in." Lily softened slightly. "That's very thoughtful of you." Tony beamed like he'd just been given a gold star. "Any time, Mrs. Santoro. Seriously. Anything you need, we're right across the hall." Luigi's tone shifted, still friendly but with an undercurrent of something heavier. "You ever feel uncomfortable, you come find us. We're good at handling things." Lily couldn't help herself. "Various things." Luigi's grin widened. "Exactly." They left with cheerful waves. The door clicked shut behind them. Lily and Daphne stood in silence, staring at the empty doorway. Daphne turned to her slowly. "Was that weird, or am I losing my mind?" Lily rubbed her temples. "Definitely weird. They just appeared, like Italian guardian angels in bad suits." Daphne's nose wrinkled. "What kind of company is called Various Things Trading? That's not even trying to sound legitimate." Lily sighed. "I don't think legitimacy is high on their priority list." Daphne tilted her head. "Did they ever actually say what they sell?" Lily grabbed her purse, shaking her head. "Various things, Daphne. They sell various things." The dining room buzzed with the clink of silverware and the warm glow of candlelight. The topic of conversation was the same it had been for the past 10 minutes. Nonna Caterina's gathering, scheduled for the following night. Enzo narrowed his eyes, fork suspended halfway to his mouth. "I still don't get what the big deal is." He set the fork down, leaning back in his chair. "In my entire life, Nonna's hosted exactly one event, her 75th birthday, and only because Rosa was stuck in the hospital." Lily's eyebrows lifted. "Really?" Rosa shrugged, not looking up from her plate. "She enjoyed every minute of knowing I couldn't be there." Her tone was matter-of-fact, without bitterness, just the resigned acceptance of decades-old family dynamics. "So why now?" Enzo pressed, glancing around the table. "Why throw a big gathering out of nowhere?" Nico didn't look up from his steak. His knife moved through the meat with precise, measured strokes. "My grandmother always has a plan." He cut another piece, his voice calm. And it's always a smart one. We'll find out when we get there. The table fell quiet. No one argued with that. Later, the fire crackled softly in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the living room walls. Lily lay with her head in Nico's lap, her body curled into the warmth of him. His fingers moved through her hair in slow, rhythmic strokes, and she let her eyes drift closed. I checked out a place for us today. Nico's voice was low, quiet. Lily's eyes opened. She tilted her head back to look up at him, surprise flickering across her face. A house? I thought we'd be living here. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Wouldn't it be better to have our own space? She sat up slightly, turning to face him. But Enzo and Rosa, her brow furrowed. I can't picture us without them. Nico leaned forward, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. Family is everything to me, Lily. His voice dropped, something raw beneath the words. And I'm building my own family, with you. Lily's hand found his, her fingers tracing the lines of his palm. I've never had a real family before, she said softly. This is my first. She looked up at him, her hazel eyes searching his face. Promise me you'll always be honest with me, Nico. Her voice wavered slightly. I've never felt safe like this before. It's incredible, but it's also... She swallowed. Terrifying. Nico's jaw tightened. He held her gaze for a long moment before speaking. You know talking isn't my strong suit. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. But if it helps, if it makes you feel better, I can tell you about my past. Lily straightened, a smile breaking across her face like sunrise. Really? You'd... His phone rang. The sound cut through the moment like a blade. Nico's expression shifted instantly, warmth draining away, replaced by something hard and focused. He glanced at the screen. I have to go. He was already rising. I'll be back in an hour or two. Lily grabbed his hand, worry creasing her forehead. Nico, is it dangerous? You leaving like this in the middle of the night? It scares me. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her, slow and deep. When he pulled back, his voice was steady. Just a problem with a shipment. I need to be there. His thumb stroked her cheek. 1 or 2 hours. Then we pick up where we left off. Lily nodded slowly, her fingers reluctant to release his. I love you, Nico. He stopped at the doorway, turning back, his finger pointed at her, a smile playing at the edge of his lips. Wait for me in our room, Bambi. She let out a breath, watching him disappear into the hallway, then called after him. I'm going to teach you how to say it back, Nico Santoro. You're going to tell me you love me 1,000 times a day. Lily stood in front of the bedroom mirror, smoothing the silk slip over her hips. The black lace underneath was new, something she'd bought for tonight, for him, and she studied her reflection with a flush creeping up her cheeks. She climbed into bed with a book, but the words blurred together as her mind kept drifting to the fireplace, to his promise that they'd pick up where they left off. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. She opened the message expecting spam, but her heart stopped when 3 photographs loaded, one after another. Nico and a woman, blonde and beautiful, wrapped around each other in an embrace that looked far too warm to be casual. And Nico, her Nico, was hugging her back, his arms around her waist, his chin resting near her hair. Ice water flooded her veins as she zoomed in on the woman's face, her fingers trembling against the screen. The features sharpened into high cheekbones, full lips, honey blonde waves. The same face from Gabriella's photograph. Stephanie. He didn't tell me. The thought sliced through her like a blade. I gave him the chance tonight, right there on the couch, and he chose silence. He met with her today and said nothing. Gabriella's words echoed in her mind. Nico was quite the heartbreaker, a real ladies' man, but that wasn't the Nico she knew. Her Nico was intense and possessive and closed off, not charming and smooth, unless that was just the version he showed her. She called the number. Busy. Again. Still busy. Whoever sent this didn't want to be reached. She dropped the phone and pressed her palms to her eyes. What have I done? I gave him everything. Body, heart, my whole life. I gave up my apartment, let go of my lease. I have nowhere to go. And now... She was already moving, pulling clothes from drawers and shoving them into her small carry-on. Jeans, sweaters, essentials. She'd go to the office. At least there she had a couch, a door that locked. She couldn't be here when he got back, couldn't look at those ice-blue eyes and pretend everything was fine. Her trust was shattered. She was halfway down the stairs with her bag rolling behind her when the front door opened and Nico stood in the doorway. His gaze dropped to the luggage, confusion replacing exhaustion. "Lily, what's going on?" He stepped inside. "Where are you going?" She lifted her chin, anger and hurt fighting for control. "When were you planning to tell me you had a little reunion with your ex-fiancé?" He went completely still, something flickering behind his eyes. "Lily? How do you know about that?" A bitter laugh escaped her throat. She gripped the handle of her bag until her knuckles went white. "So it's true. The past stays in the past, you said. But funny how you're the one who can't seem to leave it there." Her voice cracked. "Trust is everything to me, Nico. And you just failed." She pushed past him toward the door, but his hand caught her arm. His voice dropped, urgent. "Lily, wait. I was going to tell you, but the phone rang and I had to leave." "It was nothing. A coincidence. You're blowing this out of proportion." He reached for her face. "You know, I love you." She turned slowly, a sad smile twisting her lips. "You had months to tell me about yourself, Nico. Months." Her voice was quiet now. "And now that I'm walking out the door, suddenly you can say the words?" She pulled away. "Leave me alone. Don't follow me. And don't send your guys after me. I need to be alone." His fingers closed around her wrist. "You know I'm not letting you go." Her palm connected with his face, the crack echoing through the foyer. Nico's head turned with the force of it, shock flickering across his features. But he didn't move, didn't retaliate. Lily stepped back, her voice shaking with fury. "If you think you can bully me back into this house, you're dead wrong. Follow me, put someone on me, and I swear, Nico, I'll disappear so completely you'll never find me." His hands dropped slowly to his sides. "Lily, you're not thinking straight. Don't throw away what we have." A harsh laugh tore from her chest. "When your trust is broken, when your heart is shattered, being rational is for people who keep their hearts locked up." She jabbed a finger at his chest, tears burning in her eyes. "I gave you everything, Nico. Everything, and you couldn't give me honesty, so don't ask me for logic right now." She turned and walked toward the iron gate, her small bag rattling behind her on the marble floor. 4 security guards stood at the entrance, their eyes flicking to something behind her. She didn't look back. The gate swung open, and Lily walked through as the tears finally broke free. Nico stood motionless in the doorway, watching her disappear into the darkness. His hand rose slowly to his cheek, still stinging. He pulled out his phone and dialed. She'd go to her office. He knew her well enough to know that she'd want somewhere that was hers, somewhere she felt in control. His voice was flat, controlled. "Luigi, get to your post and stay there around the clock. Mrs. Santoro is heading your way." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling into the empty foyer. He murmured into the darkness, jaw tightening. "Lily Whitmore, you're stubborn. You're impossible." He turned back toward the dark house, footsteps echoing on marble. "And you're right. I'll find a way to make this right." Lily lay curled on the small couch in her office, her knees pulled to her chest and tears streaming down her face as she stared at nothing. "I'm so mad at myself," she whispered to the empty room. "Everything happened so fast. How did I get so swept up?" She pressed her palms against her eyes. "And he tells me to be rational. I got in the wrong car, for crying out loud. What logic, Nico Santoro?" Something hollow opened up in her chest, an ache that settled deep in her bones. First thing in the morning, she thought, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I'm finding myself a place to live, my own place, somewhere I can breathe. A knock at the door made her sit up so fast her head spun. Fury burned hot behind her ribs as she stalked across the office, her jaw clenching with every step. "I told you not to follow me, Nico." She yanked the door open, ready for a fight. But the face staring back at her wasn't ice-blue eyes and sharp cheekbones. It was warm brown eyes, a sheepish grin, and a pink bakery box balanced on one hand. Enzo lifted the box like a peace offering. "Need a friend? Strawberry cheesecake, your favorite. I remembered from that dinner when you ate 3 slices and told Rosa it was research for your wedding cake decision." Despite everything, a small laugh escaped her, wet and broken, but real. "How did you even know I was here?" He shrugged, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Intuition." "Of course," she muttered, closing the door behind him. "Intuition. Because that's a completely normal explanation." Enzo set the box on her desk and turned to face her, his expression shifting from playful to something softer, something that made her throat tighten all over again. He opened his arms. "Come here, Bambi." She shouldn't need this. She was a grown woman, a lawyer, someone who prided herself on being strong and independent. But the moment his arms wrapped around her, she crumbled, pressing her face into his shoulder while fresh tears soaked into his jacket. "I just want you to know you're not alone," he said quietly, one hand rubbing slow circles on her back. "Whatever happened, whatever you're feeling, you've got people who care about you. And I'm not leaving until you kick me out." "Nico broke my trust, Enzo." The words came out muffled against his chest. "I don't know if I can come back from that." He pulled back just enough to look at her, his hands still resting on her shoulders. "I know, and I'm not going to tell you how to feel about it. That's your call." His jaw tightened slightly. "But I need you to hear me out, okay? Because nothing about this situation is as simple as it looks, and whoever fed you that information, they've got their own agenda, guaranteed." An hour later, the cheesecake box sat open between them on the coffee table, both of them cross-legged on opposite ends of the couch, with forks in hand. Lily had stopped crying somewhere around the second slice, and while her eyes were still swollen and her heart still ached, the heaviness in her limbs had begun to lift. "So here's the deal," Enzo said, licking a smear of strawberry from his thumb. It was completely random. He ran into her on the sidewalk outside the office. They hadn't spoken in almost 7 years, Lily. Not a text, not an email, nothing. She's back in the city. They exchanged about 30 seconds of small talk, and that was it. He cut another slice, sliding it onto her plate. "And Gabriella, that snake?" His expression darkened. Uncle Nico turned down her partnership proposal. Now she's got it out for him. He jabbed his fork in her direction. "Those photos? I'd bet my trust fund she sent them. She's playing you, Lily." Lily pushed the cake around her plate. "Enzo, even if all of that is true, it doesn't change the fact that Nico didn't tell me himself." She met his eyes. "I don't want a husband who keeps me in the dark. I don't know if I can live like that." Enzo leaned forward. "The Lily Whitmore Santoro I know," he said slowly, deliberately, "would handle this. She'd get to the bottom of it, confront the people who need confronting, and come out the other side stronger." A grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. "And she sure as hell wouldn't hand the victory to some snake like Gabriella, or any woman for that matter." Lily's face remained stubborn, her arms crossing over her chest. "Enzo, stop calling me Santoro. We're not even married yet." She glared at the remaining cake on her plate. "And for the record, feeding an entire cheesecake to a bride-to-be right before her wedding should be illegal. This dress has a zipper, you know." Enzo's grin broke wide open, dimples cutting deep into his cheeks. "So, you are still planning to be a bride, then? Good to know." She reached for the cake knife without thinking, pointing it at him with a look that was half threatening, half amused. "Shut up, Enzo." He threw his hands up immediately, eyes going comically wide as he scooted back on the couch. "Whoa, are we really going back to the old days, Bambi? I thought we moved past the whole threatening me with sharp objects phase of our relationship." A smile tugged at her lips despite herself, the first real smile since she'd walked out of that iron gate. "Don't test me." "Noted." He kept his hands raised, eyes sparkling. "Message received." Morning light filtered through the office blinds, pale and thin, and Lily woke with a crick in her neck and her legs hanging off the edge of the too-short couch. It took her a moment to remember where she was, and another moment to register the groaning coming from across the room. Enzo was sprawled on the other couch, one arm dangling to the floor and his face mashed into a throw pillow. He looked like a man who'd been through a war. "Oh!" He pushed himself upright with visible effort, wincing as he rolled his shoulders. "Lily, you'd better appreciate this. I don't even stay over at girlfriends' places when they have twin beds. I'm strictly a king-size guy, and right now I'm pretty sure every single muscle in my body is staging a protest." She stretched, feeling her own spine pop in about 6 different places. "You didn't have to stay." "Yeah, I did." He rubbed his neck, grimacing. "But next time you have an emotional crisis, can we at least do it somewhere with decent furniture?" "Get out of here," she said, but there was warmth in it now, gratitude she didn't quite know how to express. "Go home, take a hot shower, sleep in an actual bed." He hauled himself to his feet, groaning dramatically the entire way, and headed for the door. But he stopped with his hand on the handle, turning back to look at her. "Don't forget, Nonna's gathering is tonight." His expression sobered slightly. "She's expecting you." Lily's shoulders tensed at the reminder, and she shrugged with more nonchalance than she felt. "With everything going on between me and Nico right now, I really don't want to add a battle with Caterina Santoro to the mix." Enzo crossed back to her in 3 quick strides, reaching out to pinch her cheek the way Rosa always did. "Battle is your middle name, sis. You've got this." Before she could respond, Daphne walked in with 2 coffees. She stopped short at the sight of Enzo, her face lighting up. Enzo's entire demeanor transformed as he moved toward her. "Good morning, baby." They kissed, the kind that made Lily clear her throat loudly. "Hey." She pointed between them. "This is a workplace." Enzo pulled back with a grin, pressed one more kiss to Daphne's forehead. "Goodbye, baby." And then he was gone. Daphne pressed a hand to her heart, staring at the closed door. "These Santoro men," she breathed, her voice thick with appreciation. "They're so passionate." Lily dropped her head into her hands and groaned. "Please, do not talk to me about Santoro men right now." Miles away, Lily stood in her small office, staring at the red dress hanging on the back of her door, the one she'd bought for tonight. "You're not going," she told herself, but her hand reached out anyway. The crash came from the outer office, glass shattering, furniture scraping, then a scream. Daphne. Lily's blood ran cold. She sprinted toward the sound and burst through the door. Daphne was pressed against the wall, a man's hand over her mouth, tears streaming. 2 more men stood in the center, guns at their waists. Lily Whitmore. The stocky one smiled, gold tooth glinting. "So you're the one who put my cousin Lorenzo behind bars." Her back hit the doorframe. "You shouldn't be here. I'm calling the police." His hand moved to his gun. "Lorenzo Valenti sends his regards. From prison." He stepped closer. "You're going to help us get him out. Appeals, technicalities. Whatever magic lawyers do." His gaze flicked to Daphne. "If you don't cooperate, we start with her." Her eyes darted to her phone on the desk. 3 feet away. If she could just... The stocky one followed her gaze and smiled. "Don't even think about it." Her chin lifted. "No." His eyebrows rose. "No?" "Nico Santoro and I aren't together anymore. You can shoot whoever you want. It has nothing to do with me." He laughed. "Nice try, sweetheart." His thick fingers closed around her wrist, yanking her forward. "You're coming with us." Daphne screamed against the hand covering her mouth. And then footsteps outside, heavy and fast. The stocky one's head snapped toward the sound, but it was already too late. The door exploded inward. Luigi came through first, gun already firing. Tony right behind him. 2 shots, 2 men down, and blood bloomed across the floor as Daphne's sobs filled the room. "Don't kill them!" Lily's voice came out shrill. "Please!" Then Nico walked through the doorway. He surveyed the scene with ice-blue eyes that held nothing. His gaze moved from the men writhing on the floor to Lily's face. Which one touched her? Luigi gestured toward the stocky man. "Martino Valenti, boss. Lorenzo's cousin." Nico walked toward him. He pressed his shoe down on Martino's hand and leaned his weight into it. Bones cracked. Martino screamed. "Nico!" Lily started forward. "Stop! Please stop!" He crouched beside Martino. "Next time the bullet goes in your brain. Nod if you understand." Martino nodded frantically. Nico straightened, brushing off his jacket. "Luigi! Tony! Get them out of here!" The men were dragged away. Daphne collapsed into a chair and Lily moved to hold her. But fury was building beneath the shock. "So," Lily's voice came out flat, "various things marketing. You put bodyguards in the office next door, without telling me." Nico shrugged. "Turned out useful, didn't it? You lied to me. You controlled my life without asking." He stepped toward her. "Bambi, we have an event. We can talk later." Her palm connected with his face. The crack echoed through the room. Nico had gone completely still, head turned, red mark blooming across his cheekbone. When he turned back, there was fire in those ice-blue eyes. "Lily." His voice was low, each word landing like a stone. "No one does that to me. No one has ever raised a hand to me and lived." He stepped closer. "Don't think loving you means you can disrespect me." "Your love?" She laughed bitterly. "Your love looks like control, like I'm a problem to solve, not a person." She stepped back. "I'm done. I'm leaving you. I don't want your building, your bodyguards, any of it." His jaw tightened. "Fine, if that's what you want." "What I want?" Heat flooded her face. "Someone who can love me without choking me, who trusts me enough to tell the truth. I was protecting you. You were controlling me." The words exploded out of her. "There's a difference, Nico, and if you can't see it, then maybe we don't belong together." He pointed at her, hand trembling. His voice roughened. "You should know something, Lily. Something I've never told anyone." She waited, heart pounding. "I wanted you to fight for me, the way I've been fighting for you since you fell into my car." He took a breath. "I would die to protect you, Lily. I would burn this entire city down if anyone tried to hurt you." His voice dropped to a whisper. "That's how I show love. That's the only way I know how." Tears burned in her eyes, but she couldn't look away from his face. "But I see now that it's not enough." Something in his voice shattered. "I would die for you, Lily. But you've decided living with me isn't worth it." A single tear tracked down his cheek. He didn't wipe it away. "And that," his voice cracked, "that's not love to me." He turned and walked toward the door. "Nico." The word escaped her. He paused at the threshold but didn't turn. "Goodbye, Lily." Then he was gone. Lily's knees buckled. Daphne caught her, holding her up. "Lily." Daphne's voice was soft. "You two love each other. Anyone can see that." "I can't." The words wouldn't come. Daphne pulled back. "Maybe you just speak different love languages. That doesn't mean you can't meet in the middle." Lily wiped her face, but the tears kept coming. She'd wanted him to change, but watching him walk away with that single tear on his cheek, she wondered if she'd just made the worst mistake of her life. Her phone buzzed. Claire Ashford. She almost ignored it, but her lawyer instincts kicked in. "Lily!" Claire Ashford's voice came through, breathless with relief. Richard signed the settlement this morning." Lily blinked, trying to shift gears. What? "Whatever you said to him, whatever you did, it worked. He was terrified, Lily. I've never seen him like that." Claire laughed, and there were tears in it. 3 years I tried to leave him. 3 years, and you did it in 1 week. Lily leaned against the desk, her legs still shaky. "I'm glad, Claire. You deserve to be free." "I don't know how to thank you. I'll come by tomorrow. We'll celebrate properly." A pause. You gave me my life back, Lily. Don't forget that. The call ended. Lily stared at her phone. Claire Ashford was free. Because of her. Because she'd had Luigi and Tony standing in that doorway, because Richard Ashford had seen something in her eyes that told him she wasn't bluffing. Because of Nico's world. Maybe that world wasn't just darkness and control. Maybe it could be something else too. A shield for people who had no one else to fight for them. Maybe she didn't have to choose between loving him and being herself. Daphne touched her arm gently. Lily, you okay? Lily looked at the red dress still hanging on her door, the one she'd bought for tonight. Get me my makeup bag, she said quietly. I have somewhere to be. Caterina Santoro moved through her salon like a queen surveying her kingdom, acknowledging guests with regal nods that managed to convey both welcome and dismissal in the same gesture. Her silver hair was swept into an elegant chignon, diamonds glittering at her throat, and her eyes missed nothing. She found Toto near the fireplace, his weathered face carefully neutral. Our future daughter-in-law seems to be absent. Toto's voice dropped low. There was an incident at Miss Whitmore's office this evening. The Valenti cousins made a move. Mr. Santoro intervened, but there's been a complication. Something flickered in Caterina's eyes, satisfaction perhaps, or vindication. A smile curved her lips. I see. Rosa spotted Nico the moment he walked through the entrance, and her heart sank like a stone thrown into deep water. She knew that face, jaw locked like granite, eyes emptied of everything soft, shoulders rigid with the kind of tension that preceded violence. She crossed the room and grabbed his arm. Where's Lily? She's not coming. His voice was flat, toneless. But the wedding is cancelled. He pulled free of her grip, not roughly, but with a finality that made her chest ache. She won't be coming to the house anymore. Rosa's hands flew to her mouth, pressure built behind her eyes. Oh no! Nico, what happened? What did you do? Before he could answer, Caterina's voice cut through from behind them, sharp as broken glass. Where is your fiancée, Nico? He turned slowly. His face gave nothing away. She's not coming tonight. What a shame. Caterina's tone dripped with false sympathy. I did try to warn you about unsuitable attachments. She turned to Rosa, and something cruel glittered in her eyes. It seems she wasn't suited for this family after all. Not every woman can handle being a Santoro. Some of us are simply stronger. Fury blazed through Rosa's chest, burning away the tears, her hands curled into fists at her sides. Not everyone has to be like you to be a Santoro, Caterina. Excuse me? There's something more important than the family name. Rosa's chin lifted, her voice steady despite the anger shaking through her. Something you never understood. Caterina's eyebrow arched. And what would that be? Our own hearts, our own personalities. Rosa stepped back, putting distance between them before she said something unforgivable. Some of us don't need to crush everyone around us to feel powerful. She walked away, and if her hands were trembling, she refused to let anyone see. Nico had already disappeared into the crowd, his shoulders rigid, his face carved from ice. Gabriella intercepted Nico near the bar, her fingers closing around his arm with practiced intimacy. No hello for an old friend? He looked at her hand like she was an insect crawling on his skin. His voice dropped to something cold and deadly. You've got nerve showing up here after what you did. I don't know what you mean. Whatever game you're playing with Stephanie, whatever photos you arrange. His eyes burned into hers. It won't work. I know exactly what you are, Gabriella. I've always known. He pulled free and walked away without waiting for a response. Fury burned in Gabriella's chest, hot and bitter. But when she scanned the room and didn't see Lily anywhere, when she noticed the tension in Nico's shoulders and the emptiness in his eyes, a smile curved her lips, mission accomplished. Nico spotted her across the room, honey-blonde hair, cream-colored dress, standing alone near the window. He crossed the space between them, his jaw tight. Stephanie turned as he approached, something flickering in her eyes. Why are you here? His voice was low. She lifted her chin. Caterina invited me. It would have been rude to decline. Gabriella played you, Stephanie. He stepped closer, keeping his voice quiet. I don't know what she told you, but what we had ended 7 years ago. His gaze didn't waver. I love Lily. I'm in love with her. If there's even a small hope in your mind, there shouldn't be. Do you understand? Stephanie's fingers tightened around her glass. Her smile was sad, but she nodded slowly. I understand. Crystal rang through the salon, Caterina tapping her champagne flute with a silver spoon. Conversations died. Heads turned. Thank you all for coming this evening. Her voice carried effortlessly, commanding attention without raising volume. As many of you know, this gathering was meant to celebrate my grandson's wedding, scheduled for 2 weeks from now. She paused, and something predatory flickered across her features. But unfortunately, there have been complications. The wedding will not take place. At least, not until my grandson finds a bride truly worthy of the Santoro name. Enzo choked on his champagne. That old witch, Rosa hissed, gripping Enzo's arm hard enough to leave bruises. She orchestrated this whole thing. She wanted to humiliate Lily publicly. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Sympathetic glances toward Nico, who stood frozen near the windows, his face carved from ice, knowing smirks from some of the older women. Gabriella's satisfied smile from across the room. But before Caterina could continue, a voice rang from the entrance, clear and strong and utterly unexpected. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Every head turned. Lily stood in the doorway, chin lifted, eyes blazing. No, the wedding is not cancelled. Red silk flowed around her body like fire-made fabric, the neckline showing her collarbones, the cut emphasizing every curve. She stood there like a vision, fierce and unbreakable. Warmth bloomed in Nico's chest, sudden and overwhelming, cracking through the ice that had frozen around his heart. Hope, something that felt terrifyingly like hope. She walked toward him, graceful and unhurried, each step deliberate. The crowd parted around her like water around a ship's prow. When she reached his side, she slipped her arm through his and held on tight. Her gaze found Stephanie standing just a few feet away, the woman from the photos. Instead of jealousy or hostility, Lily offered a genuine smile. Woman to woman, acknowledgement without threat. Stephanie blinked in surprise, then slowly nodded back. Then Lily faced Caterina, and her voice rang clear through the silent room. We had things to work out, but we're fine now. She met Caterina's eyes without flinching. The wedding is happening, 2 weeks, as planned. Caterina's expression flickered. Surprise, then reassessment, then something that might have been grudging respect. Lily continued, her voice softening but still carrying. Thank you for having me tonight. Something shifted in Caterina's posture. Her chin dipped, barely perceptible, but there. Acknowledgement, perhaps even approval. Lily turned to face Nico, and her voice dropped to something meant only for him. We'll figure this out, together. His hand found her waist, pulling her close, and then his mouth met hers. The kiss was fierce and tender all at once, full of every word he'd never learned to say, every feeling he'd spent a lifetime burying. When they broke apart, she leaned close to his ear, her breath warm against his skin. You're mine, Nico Santoro. Don't ever forget it. A smile curved his lips, real and warm and utterly transformative. The kind of smile Rosa hadn't seen on his face since before his father died, since before he'd learned to lock everything soft behind walls of ice. Rosa burst into tears. Nico stepped forward, and the room fell silent again. His arm stayed around Lily's waist, anchoring her to his side. Lily Whitmore. His voice carried through the salon, rough with emotion he wasn't trying to hide. I love you. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Nico Santoro didn't say things like that. Nico Santoro didn't show weakness, didn't reveal feelings, didn't... Growing up in this family, I learned that showing feelings was dangerous. His jaw tightened, but he pushed through. I'm a Santoro man. We're supposed to be hard, logical, cold. My father taught me that caring about something just gives your enemies a target. His gaze swept the room, landing briefly on Caterina, on Gabriella, on faces he'd known his whole life. So I built walls. I froze everything inside me. I became what this family expected. Cold, controlled, untouchable. Rosa dabbed her eyes, turning to the guests around her. That was his father's influence, not mine. I'm nothing like that. She pressed a hand to her chest dramatically. I'm full of love. I cry at commercials. I cry when the pasta is perfect. I cry when it's not perfect. Nearby guests stifled laughs. Enzo handed her another napkin. But then this woman... Nico's voice cracked, and he didn't try to hide it. This impossible, stubborn, brave woman got into my car by mistake on Christmas Eve, and from the moment I looked into those big hazel eyes, I knew. He turned to face Lily fully, taking both her hands in his. I knew we belonged to each other. I knew you were going to destroy every wall I'd ever built, and I knew I was going to let you, because some things are worth being destroyed for. Tears were streaming down Lily's face now, but she was smiling, radiant, holding his gaze like he was the only person in the room. I can't explain why we love someone. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. I don't know why you, bright and warm and full of life, would choose a man made of ice, but you did. You chose me, and I swear I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve it. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her fingers. Marriage takes work, showing up every day, even when it's hard, choosing each other again and again. His eyes burned into hers. I want that. I want to build something with you, a family, a future, everything I never thought I could have. His voice dropped, intimate despite the audience, raw with longing. I want to raise our children together, Lily. I want to grow old watching them grow. I want to give you everything. Not to control you, just because seeing you happy is all I want anymore. The room had gone completely silent. Even Caterina was watching with something unreadable in her eyes. Nico pressed his forehead to Lily's, breathing her in. You're mine, Bambi, and I'm yours, completely, for as long as you'll have me. Enzo raised his glass, breaking the spell. To the happy couple, may their love be as dramatic as everything else in this family. Laughter rippled through the room, tension dissolved, glasses rose in toast after toast. Near the entrance, Gabriella's face had gone pale with fury. She turned and stormed out, her heels clicking against the marble like gunshots. Rosa was crying so hard Enzo had to support her weight. My boy, she kept whispering, my beautiful frozen boy, finally thawed. Caterina approached them as the crowd began to mingle again, her expression carefully neutral, but something softer lurking beneath. My dear future granddaughter-in-law. Lily met her gaze steadily, chin lifted, hand still intertwined with Nico's. I'm hosting a private dinner this Friday. I'd like you to come, along with Rosa. Something almost warm flickered in Caterina's expression. A quiet evening for the Santoro women. Time we got to know each other. Lily held her gaze, refusing to flinch. I'll be there. Something passed between them. Not quite respect, not yet, but the beginning of it. Caterina nodded once, then turned away. Lily caught the ghost of a smile on those severe lips. Later, when the guests had thinned, Lily slipped her hand into Nico's. He pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. Tomorrow there would be Caterina's dinner, Gabriella's schemes, a wedding to plan. But tonight, she was exactly where she belonged. It was a beautiful spring day in April, the kind where the sun seemed to smile down on the world. The Santoro estate had transformed into a wedding house, every corner draped in white silk and fresh flowers. Lily sat in front of the vanity mirror in her silk robe, watching the hairdresser work his way through her curls with surprising gentleness for a man who looked like he should be breaking kneecaps instead of styling hair. Almost done, Mrs. Santoro, he murmured, reaching for another pin, and his jacket shifted just enough to reveal something dark and metallic at his belt, something that looked suspiciously like a gun. Lily tilted her head, squinting at the shape, but Bruno moved, and the glimpse was gone. She shook off the thought with a small laugh. Wedding nerves were making her paranoid. Why on earth would a hairdresser carry a weapon? Bruno stepped back to examine his work, and his jaw tightened like the next word physically pained him. "Oh, Lily, you look fabulous." He gathered his tools and headed for the door. "If you need anything, I'll be right outside, sweetie." Enzo's face appeared in the crack of the door, peeking in. As Bruno passed him, Enzo leaned close with a frantic whisper, though not nearly quietly enough. "You need to be more feminine. You're supposed to be a hairdresser, remember?" Bruno's neck flushed deep red, murder flickering in his eyes. "I've been saying fabulous and gorgeous for 3 hours," he hissed through clenched teeth. 3 hours, Enzo. Oscar-level performance. What more do you want from me?" He stormed off, shoulder-checking the doorframe on his way, and somewhere down the hall something crashed. Lily stared after him with her brow furrowed. What a strange man. The wedding industry certainly attracted interesting characters. Rosa swept into the room like a lavender tornado, arms already spread wide, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "Bellissima! My daughter looks bellissima." "Rosa, I'm still in my robe. Robe, dress, naked. What do I care?" Rosa circled Lily like a hawk examining precious treasure. "I raised 2 boys in this house. Modesty has never been a Santoro trait." She stopped and studied Lily's face with narrowed eyes. "You're glowing. Why are you glowing? Brides glow, yes, but this is different. This is—" She froze. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Lily," her voice dropped to a whisper. "Are you—" Lily smiled, tears already forming. 8 weeks. The sound that came out of Rosa was not human. It was somewhere between a scream, a sob, and a prayer to every saint in Italy. She grabbed Lily's face with both hands, then her shoulders, then dropped to her knees and pressed her ear to Lily's stomach. "Enzo!" she shrieked toward the hallway. "Marco! Bruno! Everyone! I'm going to be a nonna!" Distant crashes, running footsteps. Somewhere Bruno dropped something heavy. "Rosa, please!" Lily laughed through her tears. "The whole neighborhood will hear. Let them hear." Rosa was still on her knees, talking directly to Lily's stomach. "Hello, my little angel. I'm your Nonna Rosa. I've been waiting for you my whole life." She looked up at Lily with mascara streaming down her face. "How many? Twins? Please say twins." "1, Rosa. Just 1. "For now." Rosa struggled to her feet, already planning. "We need to feed you. You're too thin. The baby needs pasta and rest and no stress." She snapped toward the door. "Bruno, cancel everything. The bride needs to sit down. She's pregnant." Another crash from the hallway. Lily caught Rosa's hands. "Rosa, please, breathe." Rosa took one shaky breath, then burst into fresh tears. She pulled out the velvet box with trembling fingers. "This belonged to my mother." She opened it to reveal the delicate gold bracelet. And her mother before that. 5 generations of Santoro women. Her voice cracked. And now there will be another generation. She fastened it around Lily's wrist and looked up with eyes full of fierce love. "You are my daughter, Lily. And this baby—" She pressed her palm to Lily's stomach. "This baby will be the most spoiled, most loved, most protected child in all of Italy." "We're in New York, Rosa. Details." Rosa waved her hand. "I'm moving." The door opened again, and Caterina stepped into the room. She wore an elegant black suit, tailored jacket and pants that spoke of quiet power, her silver hair swept into a perfect chignon. "Rosa." Her voice was cool, measured. "I'd like a moment alone with my future granddaughter-in-law." Lily's hand found Rosa's and held tight. "She's my mother, Caterina. I'd prefer she stays." Something flickered in Caterina's eyes, surprise, perhaps, or respect. A small smile curved her lips. "Very well." Rosa's chin lifted, and she tossed her silver-streaked hair back with an elegant flip of her hand. "And I'm about to become a nonna, very soon." Caterina's lips curved into a small smile. "Yes, I'm aware Lily is pregnant. Congratulations." Her gaze slid to Rosa with something almost like amusement. "This makes me a great-great-grandmother, of course." Rosa's expression flickered. Great, which makes you a great-grandmother. Caterina's smile deepened, just a fraction. We're getting old, Rosa. Rosa's hand flew to her chest. Speak for yourself. I'm in my prime. Caterina's eyebrow arched, but she said nothing, just let the silence speak for her. Caterina moved closer, her gaze fixed on Lily. Nico is my only grandchild. Her eyes slid briefly to Rosa. There were no siblings. He is precious to me, to this family. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I was distant with you at first, but I am distant with everyone. It's my nature. Your strength, your stubbornness, the way you claimed Nico as your own. Something warm broke through her cool exterior. You convinced me you were the right one. Among all the women who circled him, you stood apart. You're a strong woman, Lily. I've come to care for you. She opened a large velvet box she'd been carrying, and Lily's breath caught. Inside lay a ruby necklace, deep red stones set in gold, glittering like captured fire. Caterina fastened it around Lily's neck, and the weight of it settled against her collarbone like a blessing. Thank you, Caterina. Lily touched the rubies, then met the older woman's eyes. But before you decide to love me, you should know something. Caterina's eyebrow arched. I'm a lawyer, and I intend to transform Santoro business, all of it. The illegal operations will end. Everything will become legitimate. Her voice hardened with conviction. The family I'm building will not live in danger. Rosa squeezed Lily's hand, her eyes bright with tears. I'm so proud of you, my daughter. Caterina studied Lily for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Then she smiled, a real smile, warm and approving. Perhaps this is what the Santoro family needs. A new version. She turned and walked to the door, pausing to look back at Lily one last time. Her smile deepened, and then she was gone. Lily reached for the velvet box Caterina had left behind, noticing something small, glinting inside. She lifted the lid slowly. Her eyes went wide. Nestled in the velvet was a tiny pistol, no bigger than her palm, covered in delicate gemstones that sparkled in the light. She snapped the box shut, her heart pounding. Oh no! She stared at the closed lid. Did she just give me a jeweled gun as a wedding gift? Rosa patted her shoulder. Welcome to the family, Tesoro. The ceremony took place in the garden, where white roses cascaded from every arch, and 300 guests sat in elegant rows beneath a canopy of spring jasmine. The music changed, soft and sweet, and Lily began her walk down the aisle on Enzo's arm. Since she had no father, he had insisted on the honor. Don't trip, he whispered with a grin. Uncle Nico will literally kill me. Nico stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored black suit, his jaw tight, his hands clasped with white-knuckled intensity. Those ice-blue eyes tracked her every step, and as she drew closer, she saw something that made her breath catch. His eyes were wet, not just glistening but genuinely wet, with one single tear already tracking down his cheek. Enzo leaned toward Marco as he took his place. Is Uncle Nico crying? Marco's face remained perfectly blank, his voice completely serious. No. The boss has very sensitive eyes, from the dust and pollen. The vows were simple. Just truth, stripped bare of pretense. Lily looked up at Nico with tears blurring her own vision. You drive me absolutely crazy. You know that. You're overprotective and possessive, and you still refuse to stop calling me Bambi. Soft laughter rippled through the guests. But you made me feel seen for the first time in my life. Her voice wavered but held strong. When I'd spent 24 years being invisible, you looked at me like I was the only person in the room. So yes, forever, yes, 1,000 times yes. Nico's throat worked visibly. I don't have pretty words. Never learned them. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. But I learned you, Bambi. Every part of you. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel invisible again. You may kiss. Nico was already pulling her close, his mouth finding hers before the officiant could finish, and the guests erupted into applause and laughter and dramatic sobs from Rosa's direction. The villa sat on a gentle hill just 5 minutes from the main Santoro estate, surrounded by olive groves and wild lavender. It was everything Lily had dreamed of, small, private, peaceful. She stood on the terrace with one hand resting on her growing belly, watching their gardener Paolo tend to the rose bushes. He was young, maybe 25, with an easy smile and a habit of whistling Italian folk songs, the most wonderfully normal person she'd met in months. Nico's arms wrapped around her from behind, and she leaned into his warmth. Happy, Bambi? So happy. She tilted her head back to look at him. You know what I love most about this place? This. She gestured at the peaceful garden. Just us, Nico. No guards everywhere, no security cameras, no guns. Just normal life, finally. Something flickered across his face, there and gone. Her eyes narrowed. You promised. No more controlling everything. I remember. His voice was perfectly neutral. So there's no one watching this house? She turned slightly in his arms. No secret security? His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. No one you need to worry about. She studied his face, searching for tells. Finding none, she relaxed against him. Good. I really like Paolo. He's so refreshingly normal. Just a sweet gardener who loves his roses. Below them, Paolo looked up and caught Nico's eye. The nod he gave was barely perceptible. Then he bent to retrieve his shears, and his vest shifted to reveal the dark outline of a shoulder holster. Nico's arms tightened around Lily. Whatever you want, Bambi. That night, Lily stood at the bedroom window watching the moon rise over the olive trees. She didn't see Paolo making his rounds below, his hand on his holster. She didn't see the two men stationed in the shadows by the garden gate. She didn't see Marco's car parked past the olive grove, headlights dark but engine ready. Nico came up behind her and pressed a kiss to her neck. Come to bed, Bambi. Our daughter needs her rest. She turned her head slightly, a smile playing on her lips. How do you know it's a daughter? I don't. His voice dropped to something soft. But I'm hoping. Her fingers traced his forearm. Why? Because then there'll be two of you. His arms tightened around her belly. Two stubborn, impossible, beautiful women making my life absolute chaos. Can't think of anything better. She laughed and turned in his arms. His fingers found the zipper at her back, sliding it down slowly. His lips crashed into hers, hungry, possessive, tender, all at once. I love you, Nico, she whispered against his mouth. I love you, Bambi. His hands traveled her body like he was memorizing her all over again. Always. Wrong car, right family. Some people search their whole lives for where they belong. Lily just opened the wrong door. Lily Whitmore spent her whole life looking for home. It found her in a back seat on Christmas Eve. I really hope you enjoyed part 2 of Lily and Nico's story. If I managed to put even a small smile on your face, that makes me so happy. If you liked it, please hit that like button, and please rate it from 1 to 10. It means the world to me. Now I gotta ask you guys something. How did you meet your partner? Like, what's your story? Was it a coffee shop, a blind date? Maybe you got into the wrong car too? Drop it in the comments. Even just one word. I'm gonna read every single one, I promise. See you in the next story.